think he's
Yeah.
done.
What happened?
He hit himself in the eye with a spray paint.
Ah. Nice.
So you spray paint and then you just, like you do with the laser, but he did
Yeah.
with spray paint.
Like you do it the laser. We always get
I'm a bad
Andrew with
example.
glasses. It's gonna be like
Yeah. Nobody can get me.
Safety glasses.
Don't worry, I'm not saying anything this time.
You're thinking it.
Yes, I am.
What?
I thought that was great.
Why is that one?
I'm super annoyed at Fourth Lake.
Why?
My 30-day trial ran out.
Okay.
Now
Right
it just,
now.
it just froze.
You just got an extra
Like, I'm trying to
$220
buy
a year.
This subscription, and it just like freezes up. It just,
My
It's not good when you're flying. You know.
please connect to the internet to continue.
Well,
Yeah.
you need Wi-Fi.
You can't upgrade it through your.
this guy.
Well,
Because
you
you have-
upgrade your cellular. Do you have cell phone service now?
I do.
You have
See,
a phone
yeah.
number now?
2 bars, yep.
You need to give us your phone number so that we can put you in a group that includes Callie.
Right now.
His phone number is an email.
406-291-2610.
Send me a text.
I was gonna say.
Send me a text too.
Wait, then why am I still emailing you over text? We gotta fix
We're going to end that
Yeah, we're gonna.
because I can't put Callie and Andrew in the same group
It's a terrible.
because I've got the email address person and I've got the Android person, and they can't be in the same group.
Her iPad.
What was that?
I have a solution to all of your
406.
problems. Use Signal.
Signal.
So
2610.
at one point while I was deployed, I had 14 different apps I had to use, depending on what collection of people I was dealing with.
That problem.
It is annoying, you know. So
She-
I'm honestly mad at my daughter because she bought her own phone finally, and she bought an Android.
Oh,
And I'm like, you left the ecosystem. You no longer fit in. You green box send it.
Careful.
Yeah.
green box.
All right. Oh, I got 2 more minutes.
Andrew, can you text me?
2 more minutes of being racist to Android users.
What?
It's not racist. It was
Android.
not genetically poisoned. What's that?
Discriminatory against. That's what I meant to say.
Okay, I'll give you.
Towards Android.
Yes, I am discriminatory towards androids.
It's okay.
But nobody's gonna get mad at you because.
Callie, what's your Title IX policy?
That's what you're gonna get from me. Whoa.
Yeah, I got it. It's still sent through the email.
Zach,
Tristan is here.
doing? Checking your hours?
And he is literally
Which truck is that?
That's his new truck. He just drove all the way to Portland to get it.
Hey,
Oh,
the
that's
Forerunner!
And I was almost with it.
The Forerunner.
I told him to take a break. I like
You still have to.
I thought he went and got like a really big van.
No, he's
I
not
really
yet.
I was hoping for the soccer mom van.
You won't need one of those for another 3 or 4 years. But it's good.
Is he wearing a patch still?
Yeah, he's got like an eye bandage
Oh,
on.
and Dylan's here.
Oh,
What?
I
It's a party. Everyone's
You
here.
are cooked.
Is it spray paint? Was it?
Just right?
Okay.
I heard about
Did you not bring your iPad or anything?
It's all in the truck, which Julian took over.
Part of this is gonna.
So I have to-
Dylan brought cupcakes or something.
What is you?
Dylan just wants us all to be
He
his
just
friend.
brought himself and man
Just some stuff I could
trying to bribe us.
This guy. Each week is one upping everybody's.
I don't mind. It's
I got no complaints about it.
alright. I got no complaint.
I'm kidding, it was my wife.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, it's 5 o'clock. Look at that, man. You were right on time. So, all right. So this is gonna sound confusing. It's week 13 by slides. It's week 14 by the way the world works. So next week is our last week of class. All right. So next week, I'm going to give you all a practice test. You will be limited to 2 hours. You will use
291.
the supplement out of your study guide that you've got. If you don't have a study guide, we'll get you a supplement. You'll take it. If you get an 85%, I will sign off on you to go take your written test. If you don't get an 85%, we will figure out what you need to do to get to the point. And yes, I know you only need a 70% to pass the test. Statistically, people get 10 points lower when they go and take the written test. So there's a weird curve to it. If you get above an 85%, most people come and they will get close to what they actually practice test at. If you're 85 or above. So, any questions on that part? So, this week, hammer hard on your studying, all right? So, and I'm actually glad you were able to make it. How was your eye, man?
Good.
You gonna be all right?
Yeah.
You just got you patched for a day or two? Or?
I'll probably take off tomorrow. It's definitely a bit painful.
Okay. Yeah.
How's the other gun?
But the other one's fine. I got luckier. Just went right above it. Missed it.
Dude,
No, it's about what happened to your eye
I said, what happened to the other guy?
The other
The other
guy.
guy.
that you were in a fight with.
Unfortunately, it wasn't that. It was,
Was-
The other guy won.
Was
Yeah.
it spray paint?
It was a spray paint. The can I was using, the side that sprays looks like the backside of a regular.
Oh
like,
yeah,
big
it's
can.
one of those with a little.
Yeah, it's one of the ones. It's one of the ones that looks. So I picked it up and I was painting at eye level and totally not thinking. Just picked it up, looked at it, and straight in my eyeball.
Eye pro.
Just like,
So,
Okay.
Just real quick, can you say a boy maybe?
It's too bad that we don't have any, courtesy. Sympathy, that's the word I'm looking for. There's no sympathy here.
I got
All right.
sympathy.
I don't have any corrections or clarifications from last week.
Yay!
I do, however, have review questions. And specifically, I'm glad Tristan's here. Tristan texted me with 3 questions that when he was going through prep one. And this is how I handle those when you send them to me. So the question says, refer to figure 213.
Uh-huh.
What is the THRE for landing on runway 28 right? All right. These are your possible answers.
Yeah, I was right. You guys were.
No.
Okay. So what was the problem? What was the challenge?
Would they have the figure?
I do.
They didn't like the fact that the threshold was like so much lower than the airport elevation.
Yeah, that was something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So the airport elevation is 3,652. The threshold, that runway is 10,000 feet long. It's almost 2 miles long, and it's sloped. So the fact that that's why they give you a threshold elevation and an airport elevation is so that you know, hey, this thing is going to run uphill from that end. Does that help at all?
Yeah.
And if you look, I zoomed in so you could actually see stuff. The THRE is printed on the top right corner of the little airport diagram. 3488. And then it's the second line up there in the runway landing area information, right? So if you look at the options, 3488 is one of the options. So let's see, what 3652 is the airport elevation. Okay, but also it literally says THRE right next to it. Okay? Don't psych yourself out. Is that
Yeah, so that was actually one we got right. We just didn't understand what was going on.
okay? So does it make more sense now?
Yeah.
So you also will hear me, like I was harping on you in the plane today. Only brief what's important. Don't brief everything because you won't remember it. So I don't even brief elevations at all because I don't care. Because once you get to that point where you're at your MDA or your DA and you see the runway, you're just going to land visually. All right? Your brain isn't sitting there going, okay, is that 3,400 feet? Is that 3,200 feet? You don't care. What you care about is, can I see the runway? Am I in a position to land? Can I keep that my aim point centered in my windscreen? And can I descend down to it at a reasonable angle? Make sense? All right, so this is ASA's explanation. The answer is in the TERPS manual. It's right in the. If you want to go find where that is, it's contained in the very front of this thing. It tells you what all those things mean. But don't overcomplicate it. It asked you what the THRE was, and it literally says THRE is this. So yes. And on your written test, drive on. All right. The second one, refer to figure 188. What is the usable runway length for landing at runway 21 at PDX?
This one,
This
there
was
was no answer.
Yeah, so this one, the answer they give is different than what's on the chart.
I suggest it's because there's the overrun.
Yeah.
Displaced threshold.
Displaced threshold, but it can't. That's not usable runway all the time.
So I did not zoom. I did not zoom into it. I'm going to explain this one in FAA test terms. So the runway landing length is 6,000 feet, right? So we go back and we look at our options.
The correct answer was answer A.
Yep. Oh, and I apparently didn't put ABC.
Because it was.
It's the most correct.
I know, but it's not.
It is the least wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
I
least
guess.
wrong.
I
That's
guess.
just so.
But like,
And it's frustrating, but here's the deal. You know it can't be 7,000 feet because the answer that we know is right is 6,000, right?
Yeah.
The answer they want cannot be 7,000 feet because they won't let you think the runway is longer than it is. All right? So 7,000 and 7,900 are out. All right? 5,957 is within 43 feet of the correct answer. All right? So, where they got that number, I don't know. It's a garbage number.
So is that, would that be like there's not some reason they have that number opposed to 6,000?
they just think there's
No, there might actually be a reason that I don't know. But the ASA explanation is just in the instrument approach procedure, figure 188 indicates that the usable runway length for landing on runway 21 is 6,000 feet. That's the whole answer that ASA gives.
You know, they might do it just to make sure that you're thinking, you know, what that number actually means, that you can infer.
So you're not
But it
just
can't
blindly
possibly.
trusting the number.
Yeah.
So
So you're
yeah.
not just finding a number on there and picking that.
Gotcha.
So, but and the big one is it can't be 7,000. It can't be 7,900 because that's bigger. But it could be the slightly shorter number for displaced thresholds or unusable runway or whatever. Now, normally that figure that they give you, where it says 6,000, that's the usable runway.
Gotcha.
Normally, and it used to be that sometimes down on the diagram you could get it. What you could do, if you really wanted to go down a rabbit hole, is find the AFD entry or the. So what airport was that? So pull up PDX, get the airport diagram, and let's look at runway 21. Oh, crap. I can do that.
Portland. Hey, look at that. More food.
We would have been fine by weather too. It was beautiful the whole day.
Watch out.
I was sick.
This is the problem.
Who wants a new bro?
I got lit up twice in a row with a stuffy nose, and when it came down, I was like, I can never do this again.
Yeah.
So now you know.
Mm.
Still top 5 most adorable.
What am I at? 21.
Did Josh ask you if you could go fly sick, Callie?
He said, Kelly, I have a stuffy nose. Am I gonna die?
Yes.
Every time.
So yeah, I don't know because everything on here says it's 6,000 feet.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but we just wanted to make sure we weren't missing something big one. Because, like, we had the 6,000, we figured it was that one because someone was close. But we figured is there some way
So you
to
guys
actually
guessed?
tell?
Did you guys guess the right answer?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
figured that's the only one. But
Okay.
We
Wait,
wanted
so-
to know how they got
Question. What is area K for HS2?
Hot spot 2.
Okay.
Anytime you see HS,
Mhm.
that's a hot spot. That's a
Okay.
place where people are prone to making on the ground navigational errors or causing incursions.
Okay.
Runway incursions.
Mhm.
So, good question.
Okay.
All right. So,
Just breathe. Yes, it does.
all right. So the whole answer there is you got to apply a little bit of common sense, and you go, if the diagram says that the length of the runway is 6,000 feet, it absolutely the usable runway cannot be more. It has to be less. All right. And then this one, when should pilots state their position on the airport when calling the tower for takeoff? All right.
Yeah.
So there's no other answer for this other than the AIM, and page 4-2-10 says that you should state your position on the airport when calling the tower for takeoff from a runway intersection. So if you are trying to take off somewhere other than the end of the runway, all right. So
wouldn't they clear you off? They clear you to take off a runway, but I mean, if it's 10,000-foot runway and I'm starting out one away from the end, I still have to tell them I'm taking off not from the end of the runway. I'm taking off from.
yeah, it's called an intersection departure,
Right. So anyway.
and you will do them eventually.
Yeah.
If you fly more than twice a year, you're gonna fly into an airport that's so freaking big you do not need a taxi. 10,000-foot runway, you do not need a taxi for 2 miles.
Yeah.
You can drive there faster.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, did that address your questions, though?
Yeah.
So, specifically, what I wanted you to get at here is when the explanations come up, it always has a reference. Try to go see if you can find it in that reference. But this one, the only answer is that's what the AIM says to do. Okay.
That's just weird. I think we guessed the visibility one because we were like, what's up with that? Like,
That was the first place my brain went to.
Yeah.
But nope.
There's no reason.
They are paying attention to you from the tower. And if visibility is so bad that it's below departure minimums, they won't let you move.
Yeah.
They just won't let you taxi. All right. So did that address the questions that you get? So you guys were all doing these together, apparently?
Yeah.
The way to do it is you're going through. If you got a question, you're just like, I don't get it. I will throw it up in here next week, and we'll talk through it.
Yeah.
Did this answer your questions about these questions?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So today we're going to do IFR flight planning. And the beginning of class, we're going to do it's going to be some review mixed with some thought process. And then the bulk of the class is we are going to plan out several routes together. So if you've got ForeFlight on your phone, pull it up on your iPads, whatever. So, and then we're just going to talk through the process, talk about things that are good practice. Also, you're going to start working out like how to plan the routes that I'm assigning you. And for those of you that have ForeFlight, when you plan out the routes, from now on, you'll just send me the routes in ForeFlight so I can review them. If I make any adjustments, I'll tweak them and send them back to you. And then when I send it back to you, I'm telling you this is what I filed. Because here in the very short future, you all will be doing your own radio calls. So everybody but you, I think, has flown actually, well, the two of you have flown actually filed IFR now, right? So, because we went to Kalispell. You've done Kalispell and Deer Park.
Not Deer Park.
Oh, not Deer Park. Deer Park, Deer Park. There we go. So, Kalispell. Where else did we go?
We just went down to Coeur d'Alene, or down to the intersection.
Oh, okay. Yep. So, all right. Sometimes when I'm asking you guys what flights we have done, it's because I don't want to do the same thing with you over and over again. But oftentimes what happens is I fly with one of you and I find something useful and then I will do it with all of you. So then it becomes a question of, okay, have we done this one or is there something else we can do? But so you you and Andrew have all had actual IFR as well, right? So there we go. All right. So flight planning. First thing is we can organize it around PAVE. What was PAVE? What does PAVE stand for?
Pilot, running, fire, environment. What the heck?
External factors.
Oh, that's
Okay, so let's say it a lot louder so the whole room actually hears it.
Oh, pilot, aircraft, environment, external factors.
Okay, so we're going to use the PAVE checklist. And all right, so PAVE: pilot, airplane, environment, external factor. In fact, okay. So I broke some of these down a little bit further. I'm going to see if we can have a discussion based off of. I'm going to give you kind of keywords, and then we'll talk about what does this mean, and then I'll throw a slide up. But so pilot has more than one slide in my deck. Airplane has more than one slide. We're going to start with pilot documents. What documents does a pilot have to have to go out flying? In IFR.
For the pilot.
For the pilot.
You have to have your license, a medical, photo ID. Is that right? Yeah. And an endorsement. You have to have an IFR rating here, right? Okay. Go fly an IFR.
That's all.
Okay, so one of them's going to. So
You wanted it.
you're kind of in the right place. Your brain's not going to wrap around it, and then when I throw it up, you're like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, but so what I heard was your pilot certificate. Stop calling it a license. I don't know. I annoy the shit out of Nicole because when she's teaching, I mutter under my breath. It's a row, not a column. I am very, very big into semantics. Precise words mean precise things. What I will tell you is I don't think Perry is super semantic. I don't think he's going to lose his mind if you call it a license. When you go to interview for a job with an airline, calling it a license instead of a certificate could cost you the job. Okay? So I don't do it just to be an asshole, but I will poke you about using the appropriate English word for what you are trying to accomplish. The FAA does not issue licenses. You are issued a pilot certificate. All right? So, you need your pilot certificate. You need your medical certificate, or what's a weird exception?
not many, but it's basic.
There you go.
Basic.
Say it loud.
Basic.
Basic med.
Yeah.
All right. You need a government-issued photo ID, and then the last one. Do you have any idea what the last one would be? It's not an endorsement, but it is in your logbook.
It's a flight review, isn't it?
No.
This is the instrument, your log instrument time you need to trade.
What was that word? What was the last word?
Currency.
All right. So,
And you guys, so when you safety pilot for one another, you have to put the safety pilot's name and signature there.
have you guys been doing that?
No, let's lock in, guys.
Well, yeah.
No.
Yeah. So whoever the safety pilot is, there has to be in the remark the safety pilot's name. It's just the name, and
I guess you sign your name.
Yeah.
You can print it.
That's it.
okay, but you have to have who the safety pilot was.
Okay.
All right. So pilot documents. You have to have your certificate, your government issued photo identification, medical certificate, or basic med. Anybody know what happens if you're flying on basic med? How does that impact you?
There's like passenger restrictions and other restrictions.
There's an altitude restriction of 12.5, right? No?
10,000
10,000.
for IFR, if I remember right. I am not 100% sure on that one. Make a note and make me honest. But what I'm telling you is basic med has restrictions as to what size aircraft you can fly, how many passengers you can have, and that sort of thing. Does it apply to you? No, you all have medical certificates. Or you will. All right. So, and then logged currency. And I note I put two different ones up here. Landings, if you're going to carry passengers, those landings must be at night and to a full stop if you're going to carry those passengers at night. All right. And then instrument currency. Anybody know what instrument currency requirements are?
6 approaches and holds in the last 6 months.
Okay, and the FAA has one other sentence they throw on there.
The passengers.
Nope.
Navigation and tracking. Oh, intercepting and tracking courses.
Exactly. Now, you can't possibly do a hold without intercepting and tracking a course, and you can't possibly fly an approach without intercepting and tracking a course. So it's redundant, but it's in the language, and so be prepared to say that. All right? But so yes, if you shoot 6 approaches and you do a hold, and then there's Rod Machado has this weird. He says it's holds plural. So according to him, you have to have more than one. According to everybody else I've ever met, 1 hold in 6 months works. All right. The easy answer is do 2 holds. You'll never be questioned. All right. So
And you can do that in TD2.
Yep. You can keep doing them in the TD2, and you can do them on your own after you have your certificate. So yeah, you guys have no real excuse to not stay current. Come in, get on the TD2. If you do 1 approach every month, you're good. And if you just do 2 every time, if you come in and do 2 approaches, it'll take about an hour. Do 2 approaches. Stay current. Current does not mean proficient. It just means legal.
It's a basic kind of thing, so whenever you want me to.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm on pilotinstitute.com, and it says that you may only fly in the U.S. below 18,000 feet MSL at less than 250 knots.
Okay, there you go.
That's as complex as they got. No flight compensation or higher. You may not carry more than 6 occupants, meaning 5 passengers, and you can't take off. You can't. The aircraft must have a maximum certified takeoff weight of no more than 6,000 pounds.
So there you go. So it's flight level. You can't go into Class A.
Gotcha.
So see? If you don't know the answer to something, be willing to admit it, and then just look up the right answer. Thank you, Mir. All right. So now my next one is pilot, and I said inspections. All right. This is looking at the pilot. How do we know that the pilot's ready to go fly?
I'm safe.
All right. So what does it stand for?
Illness, medication, stress, anxiety, or no, wait, what is it? It's alcohol. Fatigue. So many redundant ones, but external pressures. Eating. Emotions. That's what it is.
So some of the books say eating, some say emotions, which is what.
So nobody's quite certain.
Angry.
Well,
There's also
it
evacuation.
changes, yeah.
So
And there's
it
also
used to be
external-
eating, and then they made it emotions.
Well, and I've seen external pressures too, which is the one I use because that's more
Yeah.
valid to me. But
So, and I'll tell you why I didn't use external pressures on this
Oh,
one,
Stress.
because the E in pay is external pressure.
I think it all goes under stress.
So, and external pressures falls under stress. So,
And eating.
I'm also never going to split hairs on this.
Yeah.
It's just, this is a way to look at, are you ready to fly? Now, Virgil talked last week. He actually does kind of a mini version of this on all his passengers, which I may have had a student get in my plane the other day who was just getting over a cold.
Okay.
And he didn't tell me that until we were up in the air.
Wonder if that is.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
even though he inquired on the ground and was told several times leading up to the flight.
I was feeling good. I forgot.
So, and not to point out any names, but did you learn something?
I'll do a few things. 'Cause I went up again the next day.
Did you go up again? So it takes time for that stuff to clear out.
I'm curious what you learned.
That
you went
I
up the
go
next day.
gap in my left ear every single time I do that for a few hours.
You're wet.
I couldn't hear anything on my left ear for like a few hours after we landed, both times.
Yeah.
Probably because you were congested on that side. So,
But it didn't
what he
work
did
either, so that's
learn
good.
was that there's times to just say no. Don't go fly. But if your passengers show up and they sound stuffy, run a quick I'm safe checklist on them. It is illegal to fly with a noticeably intoxicated passenger. which is why they won't let you get on an airplane if you're drinking.
How come commercial airports and airlines sell quite a bit of alcohol in the terminals and
Money.
on the aircraft?
Money.
Because if you can't make your flight, then you have to book another flight.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
If you miss your flight,
So you're drunk and stuff. So, but they won't let you on the plane.
if you're visibly drunk.
Capitalism.
So if you're 0.07,
No.
you're chill.
It has to do with,
Visibly.
And
it has to do with how you behave.
What's the matter with your blood?
Define visibly. Like,
I do not want to go down a rabbit hole on this topic. So what I'm going to tell you though is it is illegal to fly with somebody who is visibly intoxicated. If they can't.
Invisible.
Now, can you let somebody drink a beer in the back of your plane while you're flying? Yep, that's perfectly legal. If they get drunk, you're responsible for their actions, and if they crash your plane, you can be held responsible and liable for the act. The NTSB report will state that the pilot failed to maintain control of the aircraft because he allowed a drunk idiot loose. All right. So, like I said, so we did pilot documents, pilot inspections. Now we're gonna do airplane documents. What?
Aero.
There you go.
Airworthiness registration, owner's manual, or operating handbook, and weight balance.
Okay, and one more.
And
Operating limitations.
Dumb radio license.
Oh, right.
Radio license if you're flying international.
I was.
There's actually one more, isn't there? Your VOR check.
That is,
That's
That's
80.
80.
and that is not what we're on yet. We're gonna get there. So, but yes, so this was the aero. So this is documents, airworthiness certificate, registration, radio license if the aircraft is going internationally. Technically speaking, I should go back and put radio license for the pilot if you're going internationally because you have to have an operator's radio telephone operator's license.
Yeah, because you have to have the plane certified and
Yeah, the
so
mileage.
that's
Yep.
two.
Yep,
So is that something you get once or do you renew that?
you get it for life.
It's super easy, I think. And Dave said, I don't talk about that. We're good. Dave said, he used to fly into Canada way back when, and before they even had that, they didn't enforce it in Canada. So it was, I don't even
Yeah.
know if they're still on that.
So the technical requirement is that you have to. All right. So now we're going to talk about airplane inspections. So what was the acronym?
88.
Okay. So what's the A?
And
Okay. So annual. What's the V?
VOR check.
What's the I?
100 hour.
Very good. All right. Second A. What was that?
Pedostatic.
well, I mean, yes.
Yes,
but
the
an
altimeter.
altimeter.
Yeah. Technically, it's a static leak inspection, but we all call it the altimeter inspection.
Yeah.
All right. T. E.
Emotion. ELC.
External factors. And then I use S. Does anybody know what I use S for?
Suspend? No, that's not.
Yes.
What was that?
Service bulletin.
Yes.
And?
ADs.
Okay. So, and the reason I bring that up, so you'll see this list sometimes, and they will have the first one be ADs, and then they'll have the I be 100-hour and annual inspections. I don't care which way you learn it, but if you learn it this way, Part 91 operators are not legally required to comply with service bulletins, but service bulletins result in ADs, and you are legally required to comply with ADs. So I put an S on the end so that we get the whole thing. All right. So now airplane also has equipment. So what are the equipment requirements for an airplane?
82 meter wings, flaps, grab guard.
Spot on. Now,
And you tell them
Problem
whichever
is
one
going
of
goes
those.
in.
what's
That's
that?
where you just haul out your sorry.
Yeah, I got a tab. Thank you
Age
for
limit
asking.
plane was 91 205.
This guy.
Is it
I
91 to
think it's 91 205.
See if you're right. It sounds right.
That's what I realized.
So- Yeah, it's a good idea if you can kind of walk through these just from memory, but don't stop there. Be like, okay, I know that I have to have an altimeter and a tachometer, and an oil pressure gauge.
Ball.
It also works best if you do it in like each of the little groups and in order. But I'm 100% with you.
That's all lights.
It's
Mostly.
fuses,
but
lights, generator,
things to do with electricity.
source of electricity.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
That one.
what's an MEL?
Minimum equipment.
Yes,
Okay.
minimum.
What is a minimum equipment list?
Maximum allowable things that can be broken. Maximum allowable things that can be broken.
That's the important thing. It is not actually a list of the minimum things that have to work. It is a list of the things that are allowed to be broken and you still fly. Okay? And what happens if something is broken or inop, but you can legally fly with it broken or inop? So it has to be placarded and
Covered.
Put in the maintenance books.
and logged in the maintenance logs by an A&P. You can't just placard and cover crap up on your own. An A&P has to go in. What's that?
You can make P-Dub do it.
P-Dub can do it. Tristan can't.
No.
Okay?
I can't sign it off. There's a good chance I would still do it.
You'll make a sticker.
Yeah.
And make it infected, but it's got to be locked. All right. And then, along with equipment, part of your planning is the capabilities of the aircraft. And I only put two up here. I'm not saying these are the only two. In fact, you could argue rather quickly that what type of GPS you have is part of the capabilities. I put anti-air de-ice and then onboard weather. Those are huge factors. But yeah, what type of GPS you have, also a factor. Autopilot. So.
Your fuel range.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, what I was getting at on this one though is just what do you have to be legal, and then what do you have that makes it possible to do the mission you want to do. So think beyond, and then when you're doing your assessment of whether you're going to make a flight, you're going to look at these sorts of things because it's a huge difference. I am the same pilot, but I can take 505 Sierra Foxtrot and go on a hell of a trip that you would never even consider doing in 19698. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
GPS is no big difference in those. It's probably why I kind of skipped that in my mind. But, you can fly IFR in a plane that has just VORs. That is completely legal. You could fly VOR only, in theory, from here to Pullman and do an entire approach at Pullman with nothing but VORs. Assuming you could get ATC to vector you out of this valley. Which, there's a trick there because they don't have radio coverage below 7,000 feet.
On a good day.
Yeah,
Yeah, today it was almost 9.
Yep. Okay. So airplanes. Now we're moving on to environment. So there's 5 major aspects of environment. It's actually in some of the handbooks and stuff. It was not spelled out in Rod Machado's stuff. But when I was building this slide, I started down a weird path. And then I was like, I Googled something from the FAA. And that is so much more organized. So what do we think are some of the things we look at for the environment? Weather. Okay, weather's number one answer. Congratulations, you're on the Family Feud. All right, so weather. What else might we have in the environment?
Is this the entire environment, the flight, everything, or is it
like the environment? Think environment.
The altitude that those airfields might be at.
Okay, so I'm going to take. How about we just say airports? So the airports themselves are part of the environment.
TFRs and NOTAMs? No.
Subpart of another thing.
Airmets and segments.
That's part of weather. Okay. when you look at a sectional, what is something that you can see really, really well?
Airspace.
Okay, so airspace is one of them. It's not actually the question I was going for, but airspace, and that's what I would clump TFRs into.
Elevation.
And then terrain.
Terrain is a huge part of the environment. When we fly from here to Kalispell, we have to go to 11,000 feet to go eastbound, right? We have to go to 11,000 feet if we want to go direct. Why? Because there's big hills in the way, and you got to be 2,000 feet above them.
I like big hills. Sources would say they're called mountains.
I am from the Pacific Northwest, and people call things mountains that are not mountains; they're small hills. So, okay. So, and then the last one. So we have weather, terrain, airports, airspace, and then the way I phrase this is weird, but nighttime. Daytime versus nighttime is part of the environment. So time of day. There we go. But specifically put nighttime because risk goes up dramatically at night, especially in unfamiliar areas. But so when I'm doing my night currency in my 340, you guys have no way to know this unless I told you already, I always take off from here and I fly to Deer Park. And I do my first 2 landings at Deer Park. Why would I do that? Instead of, all I have to do is 3 landings.
It's familiar.
Longer runway.
Longer runway, it's familiar, it is less obstructed on the end. You got a big hill at the end of this one.
Yeah.
This airport's also interesting because when you take off, because everything's down in the valley right after you take off, everything in the 340 disappears. So on a moonless night, it is full on IFR when I take off. And so I like a little time to get oriented and more comfortable with flying. So, and then I fly back here and I land here. And I don't have any problem. I can land on either runway. That's not a problem. But I go warm up. I make sure that what I'm doing makes sense. And I do it in an environment where I have lots more outs and lots of opportunities. So that's just staying night current. That's not shooting an approach at night. All right. So we had 2 lessons on weather and kind of the grand scheme of things. What are our big threats in weather? Thunderstorms.
Freezing rain.
So yeah, icing. Thunderstorms and icing. All right. Pretty much everything else. Once you get up in the air, we had 40 knot winds today, right? At altitude.
Off the trees.
Off the trees. Yeah. So can we fly a plane in 40 knot winds? Yep, we do it all the time. Can we fly a Cessna 172 in 100 knot winds?
Yeah, once.
Yeah, you're not going to get anywhere.
Listen,
Are we going backwards?
You're going to go backward, but will it hurt the airplane? Airplane doesn't care, you just move in the wind, all right? Thunderstorms will rip our airplane apart, and ice will cause it to fall out of the sky. So, okay, now the next part of environment is a little more ambiguous, so I'm just going to kind of throw it up here, and we're just going to talk through some things. But so, based on the previous environmental factors, we do things like we pick a route. All right? Then we look at what can we do on departure to be safe, what can we do en route to be safe, what can we do at the arrival to be safe. And I threw those up here specifically because when you plan a route, let's see if you remember this. When I planned the route to go to Deer Park, I did something specific in that route.
It was like a route that has you come back to 65S. You talking about that?
Yeah, we did the round robin.
The round robin route. Yeah.
Okay. So, but when I planned the route, I told you I specifically put 1 point on there for a very specific reason, and it's over by Deer Park. Do you remember?
Is it today or something?
Mm-hmm. We did it today.
Really?
I don't think I told you. I told you.
You cut carts off.
I cut carts off, but so after carts, we went to Diane.
Oh yeah.
Why did we go to Diane? Why didn't I go direct to Deer Park?
Safety?
Is it additional?
It's the initial. You can tell.
It's an initial approach. It connects en route to an approach. So a lot of people will just throw in a flight plan and I'll just go direct, blah, blah. Well, that sets you up for failure if you have a lost comm situation. Whereas instead, if you depart out of here, so when I do the flight plans out of here, I always do the departure procedure. But you said I cut CARPs off. So I deliberately did that because I didn't want to go 1,000 miles out to CARPs for no good reason.
Yeah.
But I at least did a departure that got me where I wanted to be. And so I put, when I filed, if you look in my file, I didn't file CARPs to CARPs. I just filed those first 3 points so I have a way out without running into anything.
Oh, that was that question.
What was that?
You tried to figure out how to remove.
Yeah.
that's exactly
How to
what it
remove CARPs?
Yeah. You showed me and then I forgot.
Well, we can go over that later. All right. So, and then alternates. Do you require an alternate? And is the alternate legal? I have a whole other slide on that topic. And then, as you're studying, you should know the difference between the different types of NOTAMs. Okay? So, NOTAM D is a domestic NOTAM. All right? I believe there's also NOTAM Ls, which stand for local. But domestic NOTAMs, and I have a bunch of notes up here, but that's things like runway closures. So, in NOTAM D, we'll talk about runway closures, and we'll talk about taxiway closures. Let's see, nav aids that aren't working, and if radar service is not available where it's normally available. All right. What's an FDC NOTAM?
Flight in District of Columbia.
No.
Yes.
Okay. I don't even remember what the letters stand for. I don't have a note for what the letters stand for.
Big wide area.
No, it's not geographic.
Sounds like federal something.
It's a national security area? Is that?
No, now we're just guessing.
Yeah.
Does that mean there's not?
So, FDC NOTAMs are when there's a change to a regulation that has not been published yet. Okay, why do we care about this specifically from an IFR standpoint?
Minimum is changing.
Yes, but more. So, you said your minimums change. What are the minimums on?
AFDs, charts.
Every single approach plate is part of law. It's regulatory. If they change something like a minimum or the route or the name of a fix, it will be until it comes out in a new published TERP. It will come out as a NOTAM, and you are expected to look for those NOTAMs. So every airport you plan to land at, you should at least look at the NOTAMs very quickly. The nice thing is that like ForeFlight now actually flags your approach plates with a NOTAM bar on the top.
We actually saw when we were talking about flying out to Oregon on Thursday, we saw at least one. It would have been an FDC.
Seems like a million of them.
Yeah. So, and then you've got, a pointer NOTAM is literally a NOTAM that says, look at this NOTAM. What they do is it comes up in your briefing. If it's something that your route makes it look like you should know about, but it won't come up naturally for some reason. So, SAA is special use airspace NOTAMs. Specifically, they send out an SAA NOTAM if they activate an airspace during a time it's not normally activated. Military NOTAMs, sound just like they are. It's MOAs and military airfields. And then GPS NOTAMs talk about satellite outages and RAIM or WAS unavailability. All right. So what are the rules? When do you have to have an alternate?
When it's going to be below minimums.
So
Yeah.
when you don't have to have an alternate is when.
Great job, Dylan.
Good point.
Apparently, it's not a great point because the pin failed.
When you don't have to have an alternate is when the weather at the point of intended landing is forecast to be 2,000-foot ceilings, 3 miles visibility from 1 hour before to 1 hour after the time of arrival.
You are 100% correct. And it's called the 1-2-3 rule. If 1 hour before to 1 hour after your intended time of arrival, forecast weather is more than 2,000 foot ceilings and 3 miles visibility continuously, you are not required to have an alternate. All right, think about that. 2,000 foot ceiling is 1,800 foot higher than minimums on an ILS. So you have to have decent marginal VFR weather. All right. So, yep. And then 3 statute mile visibility. You're, like I said, you're basically close to marginal VFR weather.
So when we've been flying lately, so Deer Park, Kalispell, we don't file, or you're not filing alternates because we have like full VFR weather.
Now, I actually file alternates every single time. I don't have to. So, philosophically, I always file an alternate because I want to know what my plan is if something comes up. You know.
I'm assuming you say that because if you're not filing an alternate when you don't need to, it would get easy to not necessarily make a good plan.
Yeah, you should always think through the alternate. That's just kind of my philosophy. So, but legally, you are not required to have an alternate if 1 hour before to 1 hour after you have 2,000 foot ceilings and 3 mile visibility continuously. If any of those tempo or becomings or any of that comes up and it's 1,990 feet ceilings, you're done. You have to have an alternate. Okay, so what are the requirements for picking an alternate if you are required to have an alternate?
802 and 602.
What does that mean?
802 if it has a non-precision approach, 602 if it has a precision approach.
802 what?
Oh, 800 feet ceiling and 2 miles visibility.
Okay, so if the airport has an approach and it's a non-precision approach, the standard is that it has to have 800 foot ceilings and 2 miles visibility if it's non-precision, and if it's precision, 600 foot ceilings and 2 miles visibility. All right.
And that's just what has to be forecast in order for you to choose it as an alternate. Not that's what you actually have to fly to.
So what do you actually fly?
The minimums, the approach.
The approach as published. Okay, so we're doing good so far. So if you divert, you use the actual minimums. When are there exceptions to this rule? How do you know if there's an exception to the 802, 602 rule?
When it's notated on the approach plate as having non-standard alternate minimums.
It's a little triangle with an A in it.
Yeah, alternates.
You have alternate alternates. That is, all right. And what if the airport that you want to use as an alternate does not have any approach? Can you use it?
For the purpose of planning, no.
For the purpose of your answer, no.
You have VFR weather?
VFR from?
2 hours before, 2 hours after.
Nope, and this is a popular question because it sounds so counterintuitive. If you can fly from the minimum en route altitude all the way to the airport and land in VFR conditions, you can list it as an alternate. Even if an airport has an approach, but that approach is not usable as an alternate because it says alternate not available, then you can use it as that airport as an alternate if the conditions exist that you can fly all the way from the MEA to the airport in VFR conditions. So, all right, and then I only have one more bullet on that slide, and that is NA approaches. If the alternate says NA, it means you cannot use that approach to plan for an alternate. If there are multiple approaches at the airport and one of the other approaches does not have that NA on it, then you can use that airport. But if, like, for example, if here, I don't even know off the top of my head, what does the approach plate for here say? Does it have any alternate restrictions? I should know that off the top of my head. I've looked at that approach plate a billion times.
Yeah, it's NA.
And so you cannot use that approach as an alternate, but if we wanted to use this airport as an alternate, if it was VFR all the way from freaking
Port Hill.
Sandpoint to here, if Sandpoint was and here were predicted to have 10 miles in clear, you could list here as an alternate, but you couldn't list here as an alternate based on the GPS approach. So, ta-da. All right, so external pressures. What are some external pressures?
Josh.
Having to be somewhere.
Inviting a girl along.
So time constraints,
Get-there-itis.
get there-itis, like excited passengers.
Okay, I'm 100% with bringing a girl along. There was a whole conversation here before about pilots are supposed to get all the girls. All right, so there's pressure to perform. There's ego and pride.
There's a whole list of them.
Yeah, so, and I just pulled some of them. So, yeah, importance of travel. So, if the thing you are going for is important, importance of time.
And I would say if you have time to spare,
Go by air.
If you have to get there, you better just drive.
That's just
Or
stop
go
rhyming all of
commercial.
a sudden. What happened to that?
Which is why
Let's
we
compare.
decided not to fly out to Portland this weekend.
Because you absolutely had to be there.
I only had to be there, and
So, but that's how you make those calls. All right. So, passenger's opinion of the pilot. Get their itis. Pilot's goal completion orientation. So, most pilots tend to be pretty goal oriented. They want to finish things. The vast majority of flight students are like all about getting to and taking their check rides, and that's why we're tracking our hours down to the tenths of an hour and going, okay, I'm eligible now. If you ever go on like student pilot groups on Facebook, student pilots are all counting how many hours till they solo. It's a huge discussion thread that comes up a lot, and it varies for a lot of people. But so there's a lot of ego that comes into play, and then pride.
I can do a somersault in a 172.
Once
Well,
a somersault.
I think somersault is a people move.
That's
Well, you
really
can
good.
do a
if
giant
you're in the back seat, I suppose you could do a somersault
like over the
seat.
seat to get in the front seat.
So yeah, I don't believe you can do a somersault in a 172 at all.
I don't think you could do a
You
somersault
might be able to-
around.
If you were really, really good, you might be able to do one on the wings. But anyway, okay.
That guy's license got revoked, so you're screwed.
I know. I heard about that one.
So
Besides the smart guys.
He's like the last person that ever went week long.
So we're going to do some practice routes. That's the next stage in this. We're going to just talk through planning some routes. The first one we're going to do is 65 Sierra to KGPI.
Golf Papa or Golf Bravo?
Papa.
Sorry.
Oh,
GP.
Golf Papa India.
Oh, I should have known.
KGPI, you said?
I did.
1:30 closed.
True. I don't know if the web version's gonna let me do.
They always have that runway closed.
2 hour motivation. No, let's hop on the 3-4.
And then 12:30.
This is what mine's in my patch. Carp. And then when I chose Gogs because it's got the whole. Oh yeah, I didn't. I didn't. You know, I thought about all of them.
I chose oldies so I wouldn't have to do
Well, I just put it in case you have to. You know what I mean?
All of these better.
In case they're like, oh, we got 7,000 people flying in. Hold real
I
quick
know,
so that you
yeah.
can. Because I already have one ready. So
I have a hard time believing that they're gonna need to make a 172 hold
yeah, but
for
like
traffic.
Usually
what
they
if
want
they
you
do?
Usually they want you to get in and
I
get out of the way.
almost got put in a
before
hold
they
one time going into Coeur d'Alene,
Yeah.
and then what happened? I was too slow, so by the time I got
That's
there,
crazy.
they're like, "You're just cleared straight up."
That's funny.
That's funny. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That is funny.
Okay.
It does take off.
I do not like how this is working, so we are
That's
going to.
dibbless. That's dibbless.
What?
Dibbless.
On the top there.
Dibby love.
Do you want to use the full carbs, 2 carbs for that?
Yeah, that's perfect English. Right?
Yeah, I know. Those.
What runway do we want to land on?
I chose 02 because
They almost put it on runway 2 option.
yeah. And I don't really do
Circle
circle.
approach.
Dead last.
So what you guys come up with so far?
65 Sierra, carps, 2 carps, OAB ILS runway 2, KDPI.
Well, we did ILS.
Okay,
I tried to do more.
so
I chose unknown to be.
Yeah.
how I do these, generally speaking, I just put in my departure airport and my arrival airport. And then I go to procedure. So I'm leaving, because I know we only have one departure from here, I do carps 2, add it to the route.
So,
Go. Let me
there's
turn
no
it.
way to add in, if we're doing across the country, so I was doing this for tomorrow. We're going from, tomorrow I'm flying from here to Glacier to Spokane and back. And I can't add in the stinking, won't let me see the approach or departures. except for
Yeah,
the
because
first
it's a
2.
round robin. Yeah.
So you have to plan each leg
Flag in and-
separately. Yep. So, and we'll talk about a couple things here real quick. Number one, when you depart, you have no idea what approach you are going to get approved for. You can kind of guess a little bit. There's ways to work through that. Who did I fly to Kalispell with you? Was that you? Yeah, when they
vectored us around.
They had to vector us around because I misunderstood what he said and he misunderstood what I said, which happens. But so they weren't landing on the runway we wanted to land on because the ILS goes to runway 2, but they were landing on 20. He told me that we would probably have to circle. I did not realize, my brain didn't click. I thought he was talking about he was going to have us hold somewhere. What he meant was that we would have to follow the ILS in and then circle to land on 20. And that's not what happened because right before we got there, they switched just for us. We landed going the wrong way, taxied off, and then they taxied us up to the runway they were using, and that's the runway we took off on. Okay? So you got to be prepared for that. So yeah, this is how I start here. Every time it's 65 Sierra, carps 2 carps. All right. And then go to procedure, go to approach, and I look at the options here. And now I tend to pick an ILS approach for planning purposes, because if I lose comms, I know it goes down to 200 feet. I know it's not going to be negatively affected by rain. So there's GPS is not going to kill me, that kind of thing. So I look at ILS2, and it says I have an initial approach fix at Olaby that is right next to my line. I really kind of like that. So for when I'm planning, I'll just throw it on. Oh, that's Scott. So Olaby, I will just throw it on there and add it to the route. When I submit my route, I don't leave all that on there. I'll just replace. Oh, here, I'll do it this way. If you tap on this, you see it says expand Olaby ILS runway 2. It'll expand out all the little sub-steps. So, and Andrew, this is where I screwed up. I actually filed Olaby GOGS. You don't want to do that. So we're going to take out everything except the initial approach phase.
Which is Olaby.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that expand button?
You just
Click on the thingy at the top.
tap the little bubble.
Oh, okay.
And then hit down there when it says expand.
Are we taking out the runway 02?
Yep. So this is the general route I have been filing. Now, one thing about this route, since I've done this several times, is that I know that when I get to 9,000 feet on the departure, if they don't just ask me to turn direct to Olaby, I can ask and they will let me turn direct while I climb to 11,000 feet. So it's not convenient to put that when I get to 9,000 feet, I want to turn direct. And I may have to fly all the way out like this because of traffic. What I know is that this gets approved all the time. And I have never had to fly to CARPS.
Why don't you just remove CARP from how you file it and just fly over?
Because I can't guarantee I'm going to make 9,000 feet in 19 or 69 or 8 before I get to Hitot.
Gotcha.
And I need a waypoint to use. So what I do instead is I climb up, and when I contact them, I give them a few minutes as I get close to 9,000 feet. If I cross 9,000 feet, I call them up and I ask if I can get direct to Olaby. And then they change me direct to Olaby.
Which ones did you take out between Olaby and runway 2? Did you take out all three?
Everything.
Everything.
So right now, mine just reads 65 Sierra, CARPS 2 CARPS, Olaby, KGPI.
And so when they see that and they clear you for ILS runway 2, they know you're going to do all the other step downs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're not on.
So now the other thing is, if you look here,
Well, yeah, because that's how you put ILS. This is just
This is just for them to see it so they know where you're going.
Yeah.
by going out to CARPS and then following this route, I can legally file at 10,000 feet, or in this case 11,000 feet, because this route has a 10,000 foot MEA if you're a GPS. Okay? And then I end in an initial approach phase. I am expecting to get the ILS-2, and that would be from Olaby direct to GOGS. And this is what I screwed up because they cleared me over Olaby at an altitude for the ILS approach, but they had previously told me to go Olaby direct to the airport, so there was a confusion there. I was just wrong. Okay, make sense? So yeah, when they clear you, and they say cross Olaby at or above 9,000 feet, cleared for the ILS-02. Once you get to Olaby, you're expected to turn direct to GOGS, and then at GOGS turn direct in, because it's a no PT right there. Mm-hmm. And the reason this plate looks weird is my system has defaulted to putting Jepson plates up. So we've talked about picking the departure, how to get out of Dodge, how to pick an altitude. Like I said, I had to pick 11,000 feet. Why did I have to pick 11,000 feet?
Because it says it there on the flight.
number 11,000 isn't there at all.
Is your IFR going east?
Because I'm going east, IFR had to be on an odd 1,000 foot. Now, what's funny is when I flew back with you, what did they do?
They said climb to 11,000.
Going what direction?
Going west.
Due west. Now, it was partly because we had filed for 10,000, and then when we left, when we left, I had filed to go to Mullen Pass and then come back up, but when we got up to a certain altitude, I asked if we could go direct to, was it Hitru? And they said, yeah, but we have to have you climb to 11,000 for terrain. So they will put you as low as they can, and they'll work with you. Does that make sense? All right. So, yeah, this is what I would plan for going to Kalispell, and then hope that I can cut it down. And it cuts quite a bit of time off. So right now, this is like 1 hour, 34 minutes, and I think our typical flight times over to Kalispell have been just over an hour. So you can cut almost a half an hour off by asking for the shortcut. And all of you that have flown in the system now, what's your impression of dealing with ATC?
Not too bad.
Chill.
Once you start the conversation, they're pretty nice.
Yeah, I do have weird little tricks. Callie, what's one of my tricks? Forgetting what we want?
Offering cookies.
Asking nicely and not demanding their time.
Yeah, so workload permitting.
Yeah.
We will say workload permitting a lot. Okay, workload permitting. Can we do this? I don't think I've been told no yet. I have been told not yet, and then a delay later. That sort of thing. Okay. So let's do KGPI to KGEG. Yeah, Nicole, did you have any comments on this one?
No, it's pretty good.
I'm also using ones I have, flight tested a couple times.
KGP.
GEG, KGPI, so Golf Papa India to Golf Echo Golf. That's Spokane International. Anybody know why the code is Golf Echo Golf? There you go.
Is there an I in it?
No, it's just, Geiger?
Yeah.
GEIGEO.
Okay. I
K-Gig.
called it Giger the first couple of times I read it. Looked like a Giger. Sounds a bit quirky.
All right. So going through this, what departure procedure do we think we want?
I chose Scott.
Okay, why'd you choose Scott?
The other one seemed pretty complicated. So I didn't want to go far out and then to come right back to on
GPI was his name.
Well, Scott MLP.
Both of those are absolutely valid reasons. If you don't like where the route goes or if the route looks super complicated, ask for something better. Okay, so you did Scott. Yep. Why won't you?
Range 1 MLP.
Because you, visual MLP.
Range 1 MLP is nice.
Kind of like that one. Just because it gets
Let's
us
just
kind
straight
of where
back
we
this
want to
way.
go.
This is way down though. So. Okay, Scott. Yeah. So, let's do this.
What runway are we flying into?
We don't necessarily know. But, so what we decided to do Scott too.
I did the Ridge one.
Scott 2 days.
So you did Ridge 1 Mullen Pass? Okay.
mistake of expanding this one.
Unexpanded. Deep deck spin. De-expand.
For the purpose of this exercise, is vectors to finally.
No.
No.
You have to have one that has a transition. So.
Lucev.
Use a loose head.
Lucev looks pretty close. It's got a hold is the only thing which we don't have.
But if
we're doing ILS.
If you put that, you don't doesn't mean you have to fly the hold, right? Or do you have to fly the hold?
If they tell you fly the hold.
If they tell you to, you do, but not if you don't. Right?
What about Hilly?
If we're going ILS though.
That's Arnav.
We'll do RNAV. Runway right now. Be localizing. RNAV GPS only 2. It's usual.
Like Luke said, it was only enough to do the whole.
We'll do Arnav to runway 26. Please. Seems like a good one.
Riddle me this, Batman. Why would there be an alternate missed approach fix?
Riddle me this, Batman.
Yeah.
Which plate are you on?
I was looking at ILS runway 3.
Yeah, I saw that. It's got Coeur d'Alene North Jones.
Is the Batman movie?
Coeur d'Alene COE is alternate missed approach phase. It's for a different runway? Where is it at? Yeah, one, right?
Who's that?
Oh, at GEG. Sorry.
I don't know why I typed the
That's
wrong
a
one.
Coeur d'Alene view of Oregon, huh?
It is.
Where do you find the alternate?
It was in the
It says
bottom
on the
right.
chart.
It's
Oh, yeah.
that one.
It's at ILS 3.
Yeah. And then right above the airport diagram.
So, if you look, the missed approach here takes you direct to the Spokane VOR, which is also an initial approach fix.
Mm-hmm.
It also sits right on top of the airport. If the approach controllers don't want to clog that space up, it gives them the ability to tell you to do the alternate mist, which they'll give you instructions. They'll say something like climbing right-hand turn direct to Coeur d'Alene VOR and hold as published.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, at least you already have a drawn version of what that hold will look like.
Okay.
So, yeah, good question. Sometimes when you get cleared for an approach, they will give you an alternate missed instruction, and sometimes it's a novel. Like, so around here you could have a climb straight ahead, reaching this altitude, then a left turn. Look at the missed approach for ILS into Coeur d'Alene, and it's because you climb straight ahead, then you make a turn, then you go out, then you turn around a mountain, and then you come back in.
Oh, that's the one that like.
Yep.
Is the,
Missoula has crazy missed approaches.
And they start really, really high.
So, but yeah, so this is a great question. Just want to have one NOTAM. So yeah, and here you have a NOTAM. It's an older NOTAM. ILS 3. So they've got amendments. Procedure not available except for RDO altimeter tolerant aircraft. So this expires in 439 days. But when Callie and I flew in, there was a NOTAM because the glide slope was inoperative. All right. So what did we come up with out here so far?
I was gonna go with Hilly on the RNAV for runway 26 and remove just go straight to hilly and then or file for that.
You were going to do the RNAV 26
Yeah.
via hilly. Okay, what I will tell you is that it's a hilly runway 26.
You got it up there.
Yep. No, I'm just looking. So 26 is not the runway they typically use.
Good to know.
And that's just right. Very, very, very often you can figure it out pretty quickly. The longest runway is the one that is probably used the most.
So
If
that
it's
case-
long and wide, it's the one they really like.
In that case, I would just do hilly to RNAV runway 21.
Okay, a nice thing about hilly is it does put you on a 9,000 foot. If you're coming from Montpellier, what would you do? Let's start with departure. All right. So, what did you guys pick for departure procedures? What are you giggling about?
They just started laughing.
I think we used the Scott departure right there.
No, but Andrew made a good point with the pygmy thing.
The what?
Or not pygmy. Ridge.
Okay,
Just you and
so if you look at
Which one of those was the one that we had discussed having the weirdly high climb rate that we had to meet?
We did it the other day. And it worked at 608.
Which one did you do, Scott? Did you do?
It was the runway 2 ridge.
runway 2 ridge to MLP.
Yeah.
So I've done both coming out of there, Scott 2 and
Ridge 1?
Ridge 1. And Scott 2 looks simpler. Ridge 1 is easier to fly, even though it's a more complicated route. And you have to pay attention because it is different depending on if you're going on runway 2 versus runway 20. But the other thing is you have to climb to 12,000 feet on Scott. Absolutely non-negotiable. You got to go to 12K. You can stay down in the 9-10K range. So 10K will probably get you home. Coming on Ridge 1. You got to cross Ridge 1 at 9,000 feet. You shoot over. You could, I would consider, and this is where, I mentioned this earlier, I sometimes turn on the sectional. Because if you look on the sectional here, there's a 7,427 foot peak that you are crossing between Ridge and MLP. And so and that straight line takes you over McGregor Lake, but it dodges this 6,736 peak right here. Then you can flip back, go to the IFR low, and see what happens if you just drag and drop yourself on FECAB. You can also turn on your profile view.
Well, how did you do that?
So go to your nav log.
Yeah, turn on flight plan,
It's
FPL.
just right next
It
to your
only
nav
works
log.
if you're rich. No, seriously, we don't have access to that one on the.
Oh, do you guys not have that?
Yeah, not on board flight.
You have
Please,
to.
it's on
Next
power.
step up here.
Yeah.
You have it. Just
No, I've got the step above basic, but this feature requires ForeFlight Pro.
Okay.
Oh, available on ForeFlight website.
Okay. So this is one way to look at how the mountains pan out along your route. And you have a setting in here that says how wide your route is. But so this tells me that at 10,000 feet, I can get cleared for that. Does that make sense? Probably. Sometimes you'll run into a problem because vectoring altitudes will be a problem. But what I also know is that this route is cleared for 10,000 feet. And the MOCA is 9,700 feet on this route. Okay? So I like the Ridge 1 departure. Ridge 1 Mullen Pass But and I didn't even look.
Are you guys also seeing Evil Knievel on Ridge One?
Evil Knievel.
Where?
That's hilarious.
Says E-E-V-L-K.
That's awesome.
I'm just saying.
We'll find
You might
Evil
be.
Knievel departure.
The FAA has a sense of humor.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
There's some
Some of them are
weird
hilarious.
names.
See the Disney
I mean,
ones.
the English
Really?
The Disney ones?
Cleveland, I think, has a whole bunch that are like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame related.
What?
Nice.
That's great.
So
Actually, they
I
hadn't
like
changed
fail
Disney
rate.
ones.
Which
With
one did you
copyright
say you liked?
violations filed by Disney.
That sucks.
So I like Ridge One.
Free advertisement.
So don't put that. I'm gonna go back. So I almost made a mistake here. Where I flew in FECAB, don't put that in there. Because the Ridge 1 departure takes you all the way to Mullen Pass, and if you look at the plate, let me grab the right plate. This departure plates in Jefferson are nice, they're just expensive.
Also, in or out, I would change to.
So, but if you look right here, from Ridge to Mullen Pass, you have to go to 9,700 feet. It's already cleared, so if you do 10,000 feet, you're good. And then at Mullen Pass, if you go to Hilly intersection, which I wasn't even looking at Hilly just as an intersection, that puts you right on Tango 268, which is a 9,000 foot GPS route. So you're at 10,000 feet, you're good. And then you are on the initial approach fix for either runway 26, any of them that use Hilly as an initial approach fix. That's not a bad way to go. All right. Now, if you're doing your long cross country on this, I would deliberately pick an ILS and see if I can take so that one doesn't give me Hilly. So I do GEG. Yeah, so if I wanted to do ILS 3, for example, I can go direct to the VOR, to the Spokane VOR, and that keeps me right over Tango 268. Yes, you have to fly the procedure turn. Now, what often happens, you file like this, and then as you get close, they'll offer you vectors. And if you're on vectors, do you do procedure turns?
No.
Good answer, and fast. I like that. If you're on vectors, you do not do procedure turns.
Because they've already
Because they're going to line you up for where you want. All right.
I can imagine that. 42. It's not right. I didn't say that.
It's true.
I liked it because it was correct and quick. All right. So I don't know. How do we feel about that route?
I put it up across the Victory Airway 448 because it's a straight shot.
Okay.
Instead of going all the way south. But
So what's the difference?
there's not a huge difference in time, probably.
Transition from.
I did it straight from Killy to Carts.
Did it straight from what?
Killy to Carts.
Killy?
It's right there at the end of that. Over there.
Oh, there's Killy. So what departure did you take out of?
I did what is that? KECEK, Evil Knievel.
Where did you find that?
Evil Knievel. I forget which one it was. Let me see. I did.
Well, so that's the Ridge 1 departure. But if you look, the Ridge 1 departure goes from Kecek to Evil to Knievel to Ridge, it does not go to Killy.
The heck is evil?
None of them.
Where I can't find the evil or the
Pull the plate up.
It's for
It looks like it.
for 0-2.
Okay.
For 0-2. That's what
So, and the reason for that is if you take off on 2-0 on the Ridge 1 departure. So when you file, you can't file which runway you're taking off on. You just say you want Ridge 1, and then you either need Ridge 1 Ridge, Ridge 1 Mullen Pass, Ridge 1 Missoula. And in fact, it may make you, I'm trying to remember now. Then Ridge 1 Scott. Yeah, you can't just get off at Ridge. You have to file the Mullen Pass. Now, when I'm coming back here, I do the Ridge 1, and when we get to Ridge, I ask them for direct instead of going to Mullen Pass.
Gotcha.
So if you look down here at the bottom, these are the 3 approved transitions. And that's what you actually file. Missoula transition, Ridge 1 MSO, Mullen Pass, Ridge 1 MLP, and then Scott. Okay? Now, it is 18:30. I think it's time for about a 15-minute break. This has been brain work. All right. Anybody else notice that was at 100% an equal count?
Yeah, I was good.
There's a Shrek 2 RDAB arrival in Orlando.
It's just Shrek 2?
Yes.
There's
the Goofy 7, the Jafar 3, the Joker's 3, the Mini 5, the Pricey 3, the Rides 2,
Okay,
the
I'm trying one
Shrek
of these
2, the
cookies.
Thor 3.
They are very good. They are like, what do you call it?
Try 2 actually.
They're like
They're like.
There's
They're like
definitely
Uber
a
Oreos.
Medusa, a
Yeah.
Mongo, a giraffe,
They're better.
a Dory.
My dad loves my messed stuff in
I'm still going to dinner tonight.
No, cookies.
I'm having free dessert.
Wow, this is like something I would
I
really
just
It's fire. A black.
That's very government looking. I think I spray painted out black Ford. Makes it look very good.
Is that your new wheels?
Yeah.
Have you registered it yet?
Just got back at like 9 o'clock last
What's your new wheels?
The black Ford.
The black one with the Oregon plates.
That's
So you
not
really
me.
must
Sorry,
have
my
sold house
bad.
recently.
Explorer?
The Ford Explorer.
Expedition.
I try not to remember.
Oh, maybe I didn't.
Although
even
Ford's
know.
not.
It says Ford.
Oh,
Ford.
yeah.
That'd be a great name for Ford. Why did they name theirs Ford?
Yeah, they're not like 6 feet.
Ford's
Oh, wait. I don't want people accidentally thinking.
They
Mixing
were
it up with a Toyota.
Is that your favorite cookies?
This is how I handle
Those are
chocolate.
great cookies.
I can't eat
The giant Oreos.
The most good I eat an entire Baker's bar.
You what?
I eat an entire bar of Baker's chocolate. This is when I was about yay tall. And ever since then I've gotten sick when I eat more than just a little bit of
Well,
chocolate.
that's your problem. You ate bacon.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was rancid and I just didn't care. My mom said
Does
that.
chocolate
So I
go
ate the whole bar.
Yeah.
Why for me? More chocolate.
Eventually.
Have you guys all seen that video of the little kid that wanted to try a Hershey or the Hershey's Nesquik or the cocoa powder?
Mm-hmm.
And his mom finally just let him.
I've seen the one also where the kid thought an onion was an apple. But she's like, can I have this apple, Mom? And the mom was like, that's not an apple, it's an onion. You just gonna have the apple. And the mom was finally like, okay.
Yeah.
And we started like taking big bites out of this apple, and Mom was like, okay, did you figure out that it wasn't onion? She's like, it's delicious. We were running down.
Yeah. I like to take onions and dip them in caramel right around Halloween time.
Oh yes.
It sounded like you were.
You're evil.
That's what I'm
I would absolutely.
You stick little stitches out in there because I take it off.
There's the cutest
So I will be
video
up
of
there
like
next
he's
Sunday.
got to do like 4, and he's cooking or he's baking. I think it's cookies with his grandma, and it's so cute because every time she
Oh, no, I think
puts
I'm gonna
something in
talk
the
to
bowl, his hand is in there and it's in his mouth. He pulls a flower drop is so funny.
Yeah, on the ground do that.
That's a conversation for you to have with Dave.
I had to eat sticky butter one time.
Now, in
Yes, it's big.
2 weeks, I will get Monday and Tuesday
That
nights
last
back.
one line, I ended up with the sticky butter.
So,
We can find it. They had a bunch of stuff in this bag and all of them.
you just get on my schedule.
I can do like salt. Butter's not the worst.
The salt is better.
I've always had a
Yeah.
hard time with all the
Salt
browns.
is something I just eat.
If I can't
Unsalted is the same.
be applying it regularly.
I saw one thing
I have a hard
his
time
lunch kept getting stolen.
Gotcha.
So he put a donut in there, but he injected it with a bunch of mustard.
So it was a mustard filled donut. That's perfect.
He found the culprit.
Yeah.
Have you seen the ones where people will like take a mayonnaise jar and they'll empty out all the mayonnaise and they'll put like vanilla pudding in there or something and then they'll start eating it out
My
of the
favorite's a
mayonnaise
Windex
jar?
bottle and like Kool-Aid. And it's in there spraying it in their mouth. That's what is it? What? You did a good job in figuring out. It's so good.
I saw a funny one for the TSA. You know how you're not allowed to take shampoo or stuff like that? Well, take a shampoo bottle, put some like vanilla yogurt in there or something something that's colored to be like shampoo. And then when you go through the TSA line and they make you throw it out, look the agent in the eye and drink it.
Just drink it.
Drink the whole thing right there. I'm never going through the TSA again, so I probably won't get to try that.
Yeah, I know. What's weird to me is we all
What
have
makes
our
you
pilot
think
license.
you're never going through TSA?
Because I'm not going to buy a commercial flight.
Well, I'm not
He's
exactly
got
designed
that for
to.
himself.
I'm never going to wait in line that long where I have to take my shoes off. I have my Twig card, which is better. But essentially, I didn't know it came with it.
Oh my god.
It basically is better than Twig, better than pre-check. So it's not bad.
Wait, what's
I had to go sit down with the sheriff.
What do you have?
My Twig, my transportation worker identification credential. It's what you need to work on federal, like anything federal, really, because you have drug testing and stuff like that. But yeah,
Can you get it
federal.
without working on something?
I think so. Yeah, you can apply to get it for no reason whatsoever. It's not that much. It's some
I
bucks.
think the government likes having extra tracking on you, so
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, you have to get fingerprinted and sit down with a sheriff and have or someone. I think it's usually a sheriff or someone like that, some or law enforcement. Have an interview and all that kind of stuff.
Like
And
this
they-
is-
and then you just show them that.
There's,
If they want to know, just the government knows more about me than I know about me. So whatever, I don't care. You might as well fly.
I don't know this.
You do it. Oh,
This is
valid,
Alaska, so it was like
valid. I
super
do.
easy.
This page is about to be different anyway, so.
But
True.
I don't know. I think I would. I gotta get it done with our sure.
Yeah. Right. You gotta bribe them. That's a good way to start off.
well, actually, I think we only have one real runner.
That feels stereotypical.
There's only one.
What did I do?
The other two got ousted already. They're under investigation. So one of them's under investigation. I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
See,
We have 3 people running for sheriff right now. 2 of them are under federal investigation, and so they can't run.
Who's the one runner?
He's the guy. What's his name?
Slowly.
Not Stoley.
Schumer.
Schumer. Van Giesen.
The one everybody likes.
Van Giesen. Yeah, I know.
He wants to bring federal prison to Bonner's Ferry. That is like
Where is he gonna put a federal prison in Bonner's Ferry?
In a field.
put it right by the Canadian border.
He's a lot better than
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
I don't
I mean,
have
he's the
enough
only one.
acres.
I know what they're in investigation. He's one of them.
This is like 50 acres or something like
I also go to church.
I mean, Schuman's just. He was, what, 20 years in police department, never got a promotion?
This.
That's a little.
That's
concerning.
me. I'm just walking around.
Yeah.
The other guy.
Who was our sheriff when COVID restrictions went down?
Kramer.
Kramer. Yeah.
He did
There's
good.
a cousin. He did bad.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
it's
sure
not
he
random
said that
business
he
stuff.
would do absolutely nothing if people. And they weren't gonna
Yeah.
arrest anybody for anything.
Why did they ever get rid of the punishment of exile?
Yeah, right.
Because we don't have Australia.
You're a bad person. Canada.
I know.
Because
Yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah, I can say.
unfortunately, we don't have a place to
Nicole's like,
Canada.
burn.
Congratulations, they're your problem. Just
Take
take,
all that
just
blood
take all of
there,
their
so-
U.S. documentation away.
So
and
just
drop them in here.
that's literally what Australia was.
That's crazy.
So
No, I know that's why it's
I mean,
great.
like, it's
I love
awesome.
it.
Yeah. That's why it's awesome. Yeah. I'm just saying. It's like,
I'll tell you this: when I was in high school, we had a debate over the death penalty, And my suggestion was that we had gladiatorial matches because someone brought, oh, if you have an executioner, then it's just going to be one more person killing people. Well, great. So have them kill each other, and the winner gets dropped in the Middle East.
That's insane. I think that falls into cruel and unusual.
The entire class unified against my position, but at least they started talking because no one would talk before I said that. And then I had the entire class calling me a terrible person.
You remind me of a friend I used to have.
And I used
to have that friend. We're not friends anymore.
I mean, I do think that we should have the best sentence.
So, do you have this ex-friend's contact information? Is it someone I get along with?
I'm weirdly concerned that you'll get along too well. And therefore,
They might start a revolution.
that's why you've been weirding me out. Okay, that's weird.
Oh, I'm weirding you out. Great. There goes my
I think we should have a gladiatorial, like I said, but it'd be.
I think we should get some
predators.
Josh.
Legal aliens.
I agree. I'm Russell Crowe. Wait, what?
Did you say I'm Russell?
I'm Russell Crowe. I'm the gladiator. Who is Russell Crowe?
I feel like you're missing the
This is. I know.
That's not even funny.
Who is Russell Crowe?
Oh,
that's the other. I forgot. Two separate things. Two separate things.
Two totally different things.
Separate things.
He's mixing like
You're
10
not
different
even
movies.
trying.
I'm not fully. Okay, so who is Russell Crowe?
Russell Crowe's an actor. He's an
Russell
actor.
Crowe played the gladiator in Maximus.
It's like one of the biggest roles.
He also played Zeus.
In the terrible movie.
Didn't work very well though, but he was kind of good. Neither of them are movies I've ever seen.
Have you never watched? It was the new Thor.
He's like one of the best.
He's pretty good.
I know the names of like 3
It
actors
was
and two of them are dead.
so bad. I forgot about that. That was so bad.
Shirley Temple.
That's
a crazy one.
We've played this game before. It's really fun.
Shirley Temple, Julie Andrews, and
Alright. Do you know the guy who plays Saruman in Lord of the Rings?
All the extras here, so
Sir,
actually, you can have
you should
Did you smell your phone?
I was thinking really hard, okay. Sir.
Yeah.
Is your pineapple okay?
You know,
I wish.
Cal,
I need like scented phone cases, that'd be awesome.
Cal, you see what you're missing out of these sessions. Yeah, at study session, he smells phones. I usually fall asleep. Andrew, I don't know what Andrew does. Tristan,
He leaves because you're asleep.
Andrew does that.
Andrew does math. What?
That's all he does. Not
Christopher
math,
Lee.
math.
Oh,
You know who Christopher Lee is?
what are you
Okay.
talking about?
He is what 007 was made after. He is
Anderson.
knighted by the Queen of England.
Oh.
He's my favorite actor. Christopher Lee. He's got his 90s now. Pretty cool.
Wasn't he in a death metal band?
Yeah, he was in all kinds of stuff. He's 007. I mean, he was the essential, he was his
The inspiration.
the inspiration for 007. He was, all kinds of stuff. He's been knighted by the Queen of England. He's like, awesome.
Oh, I just thought of 2 more. Andy Griffith and Bob Hope. Of course, Bob Hope.
That's a long list.
Well, I got better things to do with my time.
Yeah.
Well, he knows more than me, so.
I know way more authors to books. I could probably list about me. God, I know one. The Bible.
There you go.
God, you read the Bible as the
Oh,
Lord.
okay, technically he did. Technically he wrote it. He just didn't write it. Wait. Technically he wrote it. He didn't
You
transcribe
wrote
it.
it with his divine hand.
Yeah. He didn't transcribe.
Yeah.
I got another one. T.S. Eliot. I don't know any of his books. I just heard
Well,
it.
T.S. Eliot is
Okay,
a pen
okay.
name.
Okay, pen names count. What's the point of a pen name? That's like The Rock. That's just stupid.
You ever seen the Photoshop version of him where he's smaller than Kevin Hart? It's like the pebble. He's just a pebble. It's like monthly funny stuff. That's insane.
Did you guys hear he's back?
Yeah.
In like WrestleMania or whatever it is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Muhammad to take down Logan or Jake Paul. Whoever Jake Paul.
You mean,
I think they're the same person.
Not Muhammad.
no. Muhammad Ali died.
Yeah, the other guy.
Dead one
The other
time.
guy.
Jake Paul is about to
The Tiger guy.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
Tiger guy.
What the name?
Yeah.
Tiger.
Tyson watched that.
The difference is not loud.
It's the only reason I know he's a tiger.
At least Andrew's. At least somebody doesn't get.
For
I've lived like a
For
Luddite for
amusement
17
in your
years.
own brains, just imagine they're all roles Julie Andrews played.
Wow.
That doesn't happen.
Okay.
And probably sang through.
The hills are alive.
Feels not loud.
I was gonna say with the sound of my fist, but that's better.
That was Mike Tyson.
The problem is I don't know what any of these roles are either, so I can't imagine.
You know what you sound like when you use that voice? You sound like James McAvoy in Split as like the 9-year-old kid.
Yes!
Yeah!
Okay.
A little lisp. You want to do my bedroom? You want to do my dance move?
Just gonna remind everybody that this is all being recorded.
No one's watching.
Yeah, does anybody actually watch these aside from us when we want to go yours?
Cafe.
Shout out to David Thor. Hope you get caught up on your classwork.
You know, I hope he calls.
He admitted it himself. He's like, I'm like 6 weeks behind. That's rough.
Come. All right, we're gonna do Spokane to here.
Oh my gosh, we're back.
Oh boy. Immortalized in history.
So what's gonna happen to all of these recordings when we're done?
Delete them eventually.
Say we're just gonna take like snippets and put them in Christmas cards.
Make like a compilation of all the genius things we've all said.
I was gonna pull the.
Well, in 6 weeks would be good.
I was gonna go pull the recordings before they get to.
Oh my gosh, that is. I'm happy to record that. I would have gone
I'm so sad.
That's so crazy. Now we know if they had it sour though, they would have recorded it, and I would have probably.
What was it you said? Your guess is a good one. Okay.
That was hilarious. I wish they had it back in the
Live guys over the radio live.
Why were you saying that?
Because these guys are being stupid, and I was
Are you guys planning your flight?
yes.
So the maximum number of views that any of these live recorded classes have received is 6 so far. And I know that for several of these, I was one person viewing them because I missed that class. So,
Yeah.
Is anyone viewing it right now?
it does not appear so. Oh, yeah, one watching. Yep.
Oh.
You?
Yeah.
We have any comments?
That's like getting scared by your own reflection.
Oh crap! Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, person! Oh, wait, it's me.
That's what my cats do.
I don't like the edge of those.
They like slap themselves on the wall. Like, get out of here!
Absolutely not.
I like this one.
Yeah, it's a W. It's basically what we played. Wait, I did history.
Gang 7?
First waste of time.
Yeah, what'd you
Gang
go to
7
first?
cars.
Well, there's only one departure. Why is there only one departure?
No, don't. You just don't go to cars.
There's like no. No, you go to history. Yeah, you just skip cars.
So cars
Might
is
as well.
done.
Save you some time.
So wait, which are the 2 hitteries? Because there are 2 hitteries.
There's 2 hitchers?
Yeah.
No, if you go into the route advisor, then there are 2 in there labeled as hitro.
Well, those
Oh,
are
never
route
mind, I'm
advisors,
retarded.
just different.
Why is there only one departure?
There's carbs to hitro.
It's not a departure. That's just straight from the
Why do you think there's only one departure?
Because we're doing something.
Terrain.
Why is there only one?
The departure is like straight up to.
I feel like we're doing
There's just
something
no.
wrong.
There's
Yeah.
not a departure. It's just
These.
leaving the airport.
Yeah.
There is no departure.
There's no departure.
Maybe because they just vector all the traffic.
Class Charlie Airport.
Oh, that's crazy. That's
So they've
There is always a tower.
So they always say there.
but it's also international. I guess they'll still tell the airlines to do this and do that. That's so weird.
I don't understand your confusion.
I'm just saying because there's airlines that I feel like it's to be a little bit more, formal. But I guess the tower just said, okay, go do that.
Well, the tower's the most formal thing that could possibly.
I just mean like the tower, like depart, carbs to carbs, but instead they just tell them where to go.
It'd be hard to depart carts to carts.
Would it be
As an
stupid-
example.
Would it be stupid to do the carbs to Hitru and then fly, follow,
I'm confused. What do you got?
well, fly from D&G to carbs. And then just fly it in from there.
Just going direct to Hitru.
So,
Hitru, run go gently. That was just one of the routes in our route.
was to go to Carps?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those
And I
cars.
believe it was 11,000 feet. 0.5 there.
Okay, so if you look, you go direct from Spokane to Hitru. You go pretty much directly over Mount Spokane, right? So, depending on your climb capability, of course, what's that? Got 25 miles.
Yeah, I really like your plates.
To climb.
Definitely worth it.
Just go into debt. It's not as bad as you think.
That's 10 hours of flight time. Is it really worth it?
So you got to climb a
It's
little,
only 10 hours of flight time. It's only 5 hours of flight time.
a little over 4,000 feet and 20-some miles. You can do that, right? So
So just go direct to Hitru?
direct to Hitru is. So let's see. So for flight plan, direct to Hitru is 46 minutes. If I go Carps to Hitru, it's 52 minutes. It's a difference of what, 5 minutes?
Worth it. Okay, how come I'm not
Worth it
seeing
which
Hitru
way?
on my back? Oh, 'cause it's
No, she means like save
Sorry,
time.
I forgot. Save time.
I don't know.
You didn't specify.
So now what I will tell you is if you go from Spokane to Carps, you're also flying along the same route that a lot of stuff comes inbound on. So, but if you go direct, almost nobody is flying in that area because it goes directly over Mount Spokane.
Except now all of us are even flying there.
Yep.
Well, because we
Yeah,
were
you'll be
going
clogging it
that
up
way.
one at a time in 19698.
In the same plan.
So I think we'll be okay. I think the traffic congestion will be okay.
Tolerable.
Yep.
Not ideal.
Not
But
Okay.
I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
So these waypoints, and I feel like this is something you probably already covered. The only place where you can find those is on approach plate. Why don't they show up on the map? And they don't appear to be over any particular specific location on the maps.
So like Hitru
Yeah.
doesn't show up on the map, right? For one thing, they don't want people necessarily using all of the approach waypoints as cross-country navigation waypoints.
Because they're not.
Because they're not. They're there to be the initial fix to go into an airfield. And then you said it doesn't look like it's over any place in particular, right?
Well, because you can't see anything.
But if you look here, Hitru,
I mean, it's over top of a railroad, but
that's not what's relevant. What's relevant is the terrain here. Look, it's kind of in the middle of the open space right over the edge of the lake there.
Uh,
And it lines up nicely to bring you down to something that's, so Webda is basically in the middle of the draw of the valley as you get over MacArthur Lake, right? And that's because they need to bend you so that you can come in on the approach fix. And that's why our approach isn't lined up with the runway, because they would have to line up with the runway, they need to end you up out there somewhere where that green dot is. And that's just,
too close to the hills.
it's not convenient. It doesn't work well. So instead, they just run you down at an angle to the runway.
Well, wouldn't that get you out to the missed approach also?
Yeah, but if you are doing an approach into here, nobody else is doing the missed approach because they're not letting anybody in here while you're doing an approach. But no, great questions. And this is what I really wanted the discussion to be about today. So now we talked about route planning a lot. Now, after you've planned your routes, then we'll pick one real quick. Let's do KGP. So we said we're going to go 6-5 Sierra to KGPI. We're going to depart here, CARPS 2, add to route. And then we're going to go.
Is that your face?
No, this is.
Alright, Olaby. Alright. So this is the route that we've decided we want to do to go to Kalispell, right? So if you go to the little send button here, send it to flights. Okay. Now, this is where we get our weather briefing. Alright. Oh, I'm going to back up. I do this all the time, by the way. I will send it over and then not be happy because I didn't figure something. So we're headed east, so we need to be at 11,000 feet.
By the way, there's an Olaby over in Florida that's now on the D instead of a Y.
Yep. Alright, make sure you've got the right airplane selected. Pick an altitude that works. We're going to go 11,000 feet. Alright, it's an hour and 34 minutes, 16 gallons of fuel. Estimated time of departure, say we're going to go. So I'm going to use today, and we'll do 2200. This is because I want to be able to get a full brief. If I put it out too far, you won't get a full brief.
What's 2200 today?
It's 10 p.m. Okay. Then we'll go send it to flights.
It's right here. You go to act. Bang. Your phone's at 10%. You're cooked.
Alright.
This thing allows for at least 2 minutes.
You said 11,000.
That's correct.
You have Olaby is your waypoint?
I have Olaby as a waypoint. Okay, and then as you scroll down through this, you can see I've got April 15th, 2024 at 2200 PDT as my estimated time of departure. If you hit the ETA button, it'll tell you what time it thinks you're going to get there. So it says we're going to get there at midnight, Mountain Daylight Time. Midnight 30.
Where's the ETA button?
It's, oh, you're on a phone?
Yeah. Oh, I might not have that on home.
That I don't know. Yeah, so in flights on an iPad, look up there. The ETA button is right there.
Yeah. I don't
We
know.
have. We talked about it.
Alright.
Look for ETA, right? It's at the
That's
top.
the ETD.
No, I got ETA.
Okay, if you hit the alternate, it'll retrieve alternates. And you'll see here like KMSO, they've got ILS, VOR, RNAV. Now I will tell you, the alternate selector in here does not specifically check to see if that alternate is legal or valid. Okay?
Mine says I don't have it. It says no alternates were found for this route.
came up with.
Really? I got a bunch.
KAJ3.
It's even giving me
Sure.
Canadian ones.
Moose Lodge. Sandpoint.
You did 6.5S to KGP anchor
Yep.
with Carps 2 Carps to Willoughby.
Yep. Thanks for letting me phone.
Yeah, good idea. Let's plan a flight for 2026. We're not gonna make it until 2026.
That is weird, but I don't know. It maybe have to do with your subscription.
What does it say this?
I don't know. 'Cause I don't know who has what kind of
He was
subscription.
a bad pilot. I saw it. It's awesome.
All right. Make sure that the aircraft's right. You pick a performance. So this is telling me select a for-flight performance profile for better accuracy. I just have the basic one in there. So now you see the route says carps2.carps. If you ever see like a runway number in front of it, you have to delete that runway number out. Otherwise, it'll screw things up.
What do you send it to them?
Yeah, when you file. All right. So carps2carps. All right, people. Make sure that the number of people you are planning to take makes sense.
18.
Oh, okay, I figured out what it was.
I could do 18.
So I had to go down to routes and select that route after I manually put it in.
Okay.
And now it brought up all my alternates.
Right. Okay.
But just putting in my own waypoints didn't do it.
So start fuel. It always defaults to minimum fuel. We take off from here with full fuel, so we go maximum.
It says I'm gonna go from Spokane to 6.5S in 40 minutes. Is that possible? Is that right? Yeah. That's 40 minutes? Really? That seems fast. Alright. Never mind. I'll wait to see my tail end.
Fuel at shutdown?
That does seem a little quick. I don't know what you have set for your cruise speed.
Yeah, it's aircraft.
Alright. So we got all this in here. If we go up,
Where were you at?
well, I had scrolled to the bottom. Now I'm just scrolling back to the top. In flights.
Do you have like a good.
So across the top we have the nav log, the briefing. You can do files and you can get messages. What you'll see is you'll get messages that pop in after you file. That'll tell you like if airmets come out or SIGMETs, so that you can look them up. If you go to the briefing button, it retrieves you a full weather briefing. All right, Muir, you've got a.
I'm not seeing a thing to put people in there.
Oh.
Is that a feature of the advanced warplane?
No, it should be. Bring your iPad.
Probably something like disabled or like.
I may have gone.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that.
I'm not seeing
or the
either.
fuel.
So on the beginning of flights, or do I have to click on one specifically and then?
Okay, so we're in flights.
What's our cruise speed?
110. So I say.
110. That's
Because if you're,
yeah, it's ability. It's better.
Yeah, you got a whole bunch of stuff that's just not.
I'll take a look and see if I disabled it. My dad and I went through and I kind of trimmed some stuff out that I thought I wouldn't need yet. Turns out that I do need it.
Maybe I did that too.
All right, so the briefing starts and it just kicks you into whatever you have not read yet. And on this, Glacier Park, runway 1230 is closed daily. Interestingly, while we were there, they had somebody land on like runway 12 or 30. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because you immediately went, I thought the runway was closed. Yeah. I said, well, apparently not to everybody. So, and then Missoula, it has a runway closed, excluding taxi. Okay? In the airmets, mountain obscuration, and I don't know if I've explained this, if the active time is in red, That means it's during the time you expect to be in the air, in that area. Alright? But this mountain obscuration is actually south of us. It doesn't hit us here. Alright, then we got turbulence. So low level turbulence, we got moderate turbulence from 0 to 12,000 feet tonight, which kind of jives with the weather we had this morning. Did you say? Yeah.
I'd say so, yeah. You know that we're still having right now.
Still having. And then they got more. So moderate turbulence, I would say, is not a stopper. Severe turbulence is. Alright, you'll just get beat to crap. Moderate turbulence, though, why would we maybe take that into consideration?
Because we don't want to bounce around.
Okay, that's a valid answer.
If we have passengers who don't have a stomach for it,
It can push
Exactly. If you've got, it's a bigger thing. If you got passengers, it's going to make super uncomfortable, or if you're just uncomfortable with it. All right. High level turbulence. Why do we care about high level turbulence?
We don't.
The truth is, it only really if it's severe. It's an indication that we're going to have bad weather underneath it. All
do you
right.
care about high level?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I file, I care about high level turbulence.
Because this man's filing flight level 650.
230.
Close enough.
All the same as we fly levels, you know.
It's good for Josh math.
Yeah.
Once you get above 18,000 feet, you can go as
Is
high as
there
you want.
even a
You
flight
set your
level
altitude.
650?
There is. That's class E.
There it is. It's Class Echo.
Oh,
Is it still?
Round 2.
yeah.
There's still flight levels, right?
All right.
Neil Armstrong was at
So wait, you can do anything.
All right. So look at the surface analysis, and what you see is that we got kind of cruddy weather probably coming up from.
Florida.
No, it's coming down from Canada. It's up here. You see those two lows that are pretty close together there. There's front right there, cold front coming down. We got some rain, and you got this weather. So this is all swirling around, and that's probably why we got a bunch of views. What do you think?
I agree. It's all fake.
I was doing some practice questions.
Yeah, good.
So are you not actually helping me with that? So
I have just gone through a weather brief.
Mhm.
Oh, you're right. This is your hard part was weather. I'll help you.
Okay, so right now the METARs are all VFR. Now, one thing, like this morning when I was doing flight planning for Canaan's flight, one of the things I did look at real quick was what the ceilings were. Not because we're going to not fly, but because I want to know how hard my day is going to be. And so I look to see, okay, am I going to be in and out of clouds? Is there a possibility I'm going to have to be negotiating to get different altitudes if we're going to pick up icing, that kind of thing?
So you basically you need to know how much coffee you need to drink in the morning.
If I drank coffee, yes. I don't drink coffee.
What's the unknown on Thompson Falls?
God.
That
This is
means
why
that
that was
there's
my favorite flights.
Oh no!
Coffee.
I don't even think Nicole already. She's just gonna do
She doesn't drink coffee either.
I think we
She
might
drinks
have
hot
to.
chocolate with a shot of espresso.
I think we might have to remove.
That's
the
not
process
coffee.
of the-
It's not good coffee.
it's wrong.
No.
Okay. So the unknown just means that for some reason they can't determine what the
Whether it's
Category
What a
is.
category is.
gotcha,
So they don't have the ability, kind of like Thompson Falls.
but that's
so
what
they'll-
we're looking at.
Yeah, Thompson Falls. Libby sometimes does it.
So, and what's probably going on is there's something missing from the data because they got 10 statute miles. They must not have so they probably don't have the ability to judge cloud heights because there's no cloud height listed. See, let's see. Turn plain text on.
Plain text.
Automated wind.
It's so much more confusing.
Turn
I like the name.
Yeah, you notice there's no cloud height, and it does not say clear or sky clear. So there's no way for it to determine whether or not it's VFR.
So you have 10 miles visibility and 15-foot clouds.
You could, in theory.
Likely, but
I said in theory. But what you can also tell by looking at this is it's VFR everywhere around it, and they're saying that they've got 10 miles visibility. So that meets ours probably pretty good.
I've actually been in a situation where that happened. Not flying, but I was hiking on a mountain and I had a cloud layer below me and a cloud layer above me in like 20 feet.
So you were
I hiked
in a
up through
sandwich.
it. So I was on Hall Mountain. I could see all the way across between these two cloud layers. It was the weirdest feeling ever.
You will experience again if you ever actually fly that far.
So he was in the cloud over
I
there.
thought you were gonna tell me if you ever actually flew.
Whoa!
That's
crazy.
That's crazy.
You gotta love it when Nicole comes off the top row from the bleachers.
That I could help.
There we go. All right, so there's a PIRAP over Mullen Pass at 38,000 feet, moderate turbulence.
Yeah, I care about that.
It does talk about mountain wave though, so that's an indication.
That would make sense from today.
Yep. So the part about this that does make sense to us is that Boeing 738.
737-800. Anyone got binoculars?
He's serious? He's not the
738. What's a Boeing 738?
Almost through.
B-73. I'd have to Google it.
Because that's what they have at the big airports, like where the planes taxi up the stop lines, like 738, 737,
There you go.
736, whatever.
Seriously?
Just the designator of the code.
But anyway,
The
so
739
PIREPs, then we get into forecasts. So we look at what the weather currently is, and then forecast cloud coverage. We're looking pretty good. The at 03. There you go. Now these brokens and tops almost reached us. You just kind of got to eyeball that. And then if you look the next time, so it looks like there's less cloud coverage later. So that'd be an indication it's clearing up a little bit. You guys know what that cirrus means?
There's cirrus clouds.
Cirrus clouds, and they're above like 12,000 feet. Right.
It's like high up there.
Probably
High
actually
level
means that there's cirrus as well.
You're serious.
So visibility, we got winds. Those are like 15 gusting 20, 15 gusting, which kind of jives with today. Yep.
I'd say it was a little more than that.
Yeah.
What,
10.
And you know what's interesting? You know how we had variable winds all day? Look at the two wind bars.
Stick straight. No variables.
Oh, cooked.
So
No, we
dread
definitely had
gusts.
some.
That's the only spot in
Well, that's
all of
higher
the
up.
What's up with
Well,
that?
you know, there's some gusts going.
This is surface.
We're getting
That is
nowhere.
interesting.
That's
And snow. Ooh, there's snow down there.
That's gotta be a scam.
It's a
Snow.
scam. I'm sure that's what it is.
How does anybody make money off
All right, now you run down through this, guys. We look at the TAFs. You got Phelps Field, Coeur d'Alene, Kalispell. And one of the things living up here, we don't have good TAFs. So one of the nice things is that ForeFlight now has MOS weather. And then they also have like just the weather forecast is right in there. And you know, when we look at Cape at 6.5 Sierra, look at the weather. So this is the model output statistic, I believe is what MOS stands for. But it gives you some idea of what kind of weather we're expecting tomorrow. Which it looks pretty good. And then when you go to the daily, for Tuesday, this is like Weather Channel weather, but somebody has taken the time and actually done an analysis hour by hour of what the weather should be. Now, this weather is not legal briefing weather, but it's absolutely reasonable decision-making weather.
Because that's somebody who basically went and looked at what we just looked at, a whole bunch more data, and who actually understood how to read all the data, and it was their profession to do it, and then said, okay, based on this is what is likely to happen.
But according to this, all indications are that even though it's supposed to be cloudy and rainy, we're supposed to have pretty high ceilings. So 5,000, 6,000, 9,800, 25,000 ceiling, no ceiling, 25K. So, like this right here looks like Wednesday evening, we should be able to do some good flights out of here. Now that I'm not looking anywhere else. Alright. So, back to the flights. Everything here indicates that we should have at worst marginal VFR. And it should be VFR at the time that we're going on our trip. Top-down wind chart, this is at flight level 110. It automatically picks the flight level that you file for. So this is your at altitude chart, as opposed to this is your surface winds chart. Okay. And then it gives you a vertical cross section of what the wind looks like. This is if you have the flexibility. So we're limited due to capability of our airplane, right? And then terrain. Terrain says we have to be at least this high. Our airplane says I can be no more than this high. So that narrows our choices. So our only real bands of possibility are somewhere between flight level 8,000 feet and 12,500. We don't have oxygen on board. That's another one we should put on that slide. It's like we don't have oxygen. We're not pressurized. Me, I have a billion more options because I'm pressurized.
Because you're rich.
I don't know if I would say I'm rich. I am not poor. By any stretch of the imagination.
We would all say you're rich.
Comparatively
We're
speaking,
We're student pilots. We're all
We're pilots for all four.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of
Actually,
money.
right.
What's that?
We're pilots, of course we're going to tell you.
That's
What's that
so many.
saying? You can be either.
Yeah, it doesn't run.
When I was younger, I said I was going to be rich and be a pilot. My mom told me I couldn't. I still have to be one.
Just
Yeah.
Chris fixes my
One of
I
the
told my mom when I grew up I was going to be a rich and a pilot, and she said you can only do one.
Yeah.
And heck, you can either grow up or be a pilot.
Hey,
I feel like if you're a commercial pilot, you're on an aircraft owner, that
Yeah,
might be.
Yeah, but you still can't grow
Yeah.
up.
Hey, this guy's in real estate. Real estate's the way to go here. If you want to make money to be a pilot. I feel like that's smart.
If you got a good flexible
So-
schedule.
All right,
So,
wins a lock table. We've all been over this a million times. All right, then NOTAMs. So you got destination NOTAMs.
Did you call those DA notices up there? DA?
Dad.
Well, there's D NOTAMs.
I'm gonna name
So-
him Dad.
But ForeFlight does you a favor and organizes them by your destinations,
Very nice.
your alternate. All right, you should, when you come prepared to fly with me, have reviewed these in detail. All right. The en route NOTAMs, there's a billion of them.
Yeah.
All right. You learn to filter. Look at things that are actually important to you. If you're going to fly with VORs, start skimming down through here. So you have like some idea. You guys are making my phone.
We can all just talk.
What was that?
We can all just talk.
Texting, I'm on the text chain. Tristan.
You can text when I come back.
So, but like here, en route communications NOTAM, this one might be important to you. Thompson CTAF 118.325 has changed to 122.9 permanently. All right. So, automated weather broadcasting system is unserviceable at Sierra 59. That doesn't mean anything. Airspace, no drama there. Runway taxiway apron. This, you definitely want to skim down for any of the airports that you might actually land at, which is none of those. All right, so don't read the whole thing. All right. Other unverified. Apparently at Deer Park, there's a tower.
Missing a light bulb.
Yeah, no light. 2,191 feet AGL.
That's what I was thinking.
So,
I got a question on that.
ARTCZ NOTAMs. So this KZSE, that's all about the airspace. All right. Now here's the interesting thing. I almost never read these when I'm filed because they won't clear me through something I can't fly through. All right. If you're doing this brief and you're hoping to like go around some airspace and you can see that the airspace is going to be active, then you may have to change like your fuel plans. Does that make sense? All right. But I usually carry so much gas that I'm just like, I'm going to go around it. And if you look, that is a long bunch of numbers. Return to again. All right, what were you at? What was your question?
What is the deal with all the unmanned rocket launches around Portland? There's like, how many private airports in the count that had that note in? All around Portland.
There's a lot. A bunch of them around Portland had unmanned aerial, what was it, like rockets?
UAS, unmanned aerial.
Unmanned launches. Yeah, unmanned rocket launching up to like, there were like 20,000, 16,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many. It wasn't bottle rockets.
100%, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's weird. It's all
So, it's something
Maybe look at the news there.
yeah.
That would take some research, and that's pretty
There's just people flying around.
Also, if we were to stick on this, would you want to go through
It is
Okay.
more
If we were to
of
stick on
a
this, would you want to go through with this?
No, I don't
We
think
can do
you
that.
16,000 feet.
So, okay. So then after doing all of this and looking through all that, you go down to the bottom and it says proceed to file. And it brings up an ICAO type flight plan. Rod Machado has a whole freaking big thing about ICAO flight plans. Read it and understand it. Okay? The truth is, you're going to file like this once you get all those codes in the system. So like here, November 19698 is a Charlie 172 / Bravo Golf Oscar Romeo Sierra. Those are all codes about what kind of radios and navigation equipment. The only one I can tell you off the top of my head is that golf means you have GPS.
They really should make a legend for that. The ICAO codes have always confused me.
Is there no
Because you're from Canada.
I would like you to explain the ICAO codes for us now, Josh.
Yeah.
He's Californian though.
I
He
guess
doesn't
so.
like
California's a town.
Good.
Roll back for a second, guys. All right, so, but yeah, part of setting up any airplane in the system is figuring out what all those codes are. All right, and part of how you figure out what the codes are is you look them up on the ICAO website. All right. So form type is ICAO, flight rules is IFR, flight type is G for general aviation. All the codes are actually built into the aircraft, but that is the aircraft in the flight planning part of ForeFlight. There's a different aircraft listed in the logging portion. And if you're not aware of that, it separates the aircraft out. I have no idea why.
Bothers me.
But am I wrong?
No, it totally does that.
Yep, so when you set up an airplane, always sit down and make sure it's set up in both places so that you can use it. All right, true airspeed, I put 120. That's because that's the default that Dave in his model sent to me. I know that we actually typically fly more like 110. So if you're going to change it, it is better to change it on the previous page, but you can change it here. The problem is your estimates will be wrong. Your ETA and your ETE. All right, but it is miles per hour. We are one airplane, 65 Sierra. We're planning on leaving at 2200 Pacific Daylight Time. If you ever do one of these by hand, you have to do it in Zulu time. Okay. 2 people on board. Carps 2 carps Oldie. 11,000 feet. Time en route 134. Fuel on board 352. Okay. Other information. 1 item. And I don't even know what an EET KZLC0120. Oh, I should. I believe that is the type of ADSB out that we have.
I would have to look that up.
But we'd have to look it up. So, KGPI, on like dinghies and radios and stuff, I just learned the other day, this one's probably wrong because technically we have a VHF radio and we have an ELT. And so you would turn those on. I've been filing without them forever. Alright. And then down at the bottom, name, email address, phone number. Make sure that you set those up right so it's a phone number they can get a hold of, because if you screw up and don't close your flight plan, they will try to call you.
Can they call your email?
And if they call you, you can fix it. Does that make sense? Otherwise, they may launch search and rescue and waste a bunch of money. And then, and I'm going to do it right here. You hit file, and it says, are you ready to file this IFR plan departing in 2 hours, 36 minutes? File. My flight plan is filed.
That's awesome. Well, wait, now you gotta go. Now you gotta go. Well, this is for tomorrow.
It just goes into the computer system and it's
No, this is for
Okay.
2 hours.
It just disappears on its own.
See now, it says update planned route. Expected route was received for 6.5, and you'll see. Okay. So they gave me an expected route of Carps to Space Carps, Space Olaby. I don't know why. It does that all the time. That is the exact route I filed, but without the dot. But the dot is the preferred, what is the appropriate way to file that?
Have you ever tried filing it without the dot just to see what happens?
No. But so you hit update. But this is just a matter of being able to read. See, Carps 2 Carps Olaby versus Carps 2 dot Carps Olaby. It's the same route. Alright, so when I do that, if they say as filed, it tells me the same thing. This says I expect to receive a route that says filed. Period. Alright? Now, if something happens and we can't get off by the time we want to get off, I can go amend. Hit copy. And then I can change the time, I can change my alternate, I can change anything, and then I say file changes. Fair enough? And if I really care about it, so if you don't open the flight plan, nothing happens. Alright?
Disappears in what, 2 hours?
The 2 hour, it opens 30 minutes before to 2 hours after the window, typically. And then it just disappears out of the system. If you want to clean it up, you can just go cancel. Cancel your flight plan, yes. And it's no longer fine.
Is cooked a good expression or
It's bad.
Okay. I'm just trying to
I
understand.
don't think so. I can't see
I one time
It's a Zoomer thing.
planning for my VFR stuff. I accidentally hit file or proceed to file.
I've never heard it.
I desperately tried to back out of that as fast as I could. Anything to do. I tried to shut my iPad off. Back up and proceed to file.
Well, that's, I'll be honest with you, part of the reason that I hit the file button is I don't want you guys to get scared of it.
Oh, that
Now,
made me
so you can actually open and close VFR flight plans through your iPad.
Okay.
You cannot do that with instrument flight plans. There's a weird exception. You can enroll in a program and they can do electronic opening and closing. But if you enroll in the program, everybody that uses that airplane has to use the electronic opening and closing. So I stay away from it, and it's not something that's going to show up on a test. It's not something anybody's going to ask you to do. But you cannot currently file IFR. Why? Because you are not rated. The word is rated. You are a certificated airman, but you do not have an instrument rating. Cool?
Cool. Makes sense.
All right.
I think Andrew was touching on a question. Would ForeFlight like flag it and be like, absolutely not? Or what?
No, it'll let you
Well,
fly.
that doesn't know.
ForeFlight has no way to do it.
So then, what would
So,
it?
well, and if you filed it and you don't fly, you won't have any problem. If you file it and you fly. Oh, by the way, do you know how they can tell if you have an IFR rating if you file a flight plan?
Because you tell them who you are.
Because you told them you do. So you and I did a pop up. What was the question the guy asked me? Do you remember?
I don't know if I remember right now.
Yeah, so we're flying in, and I said, hey, I'd like to request a pop up. And he goes, are you IFR rated? I am IFR rated.
Oh,
That way they have you recorded as telling them that you're IFR rated.
So then it's not on them anymore. It's on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would happen if you said no?
Your birthday is like January.
So-
It's like looking at that.
They probably would have asked me if I wanted to do special VFR. You know, because the reason we were filing was there was a cloud layer between, we were up above, we got out to Carps, did a loop. In fact, we didn't get all the way to Carps.
Yeah.
When we went out, we turned around, we came back, and the clouds had moved out over
MacArthur or Sam.
almost, yeah, over Sandpoint, MacArthur. And so we could have flown over the top and then spiraled down to come in. He's doing an IFR lesson. So I just called and said, hey, I'd like a pop-up for the approach into Boundary County. And it took him, what, 10 seconds?
Yeah.
And they came back with, cleared for the approach, cross, hit true, at or above 8,000, off you go. And so, and we flew the actual approach in, and then when we got underneath, I canceled the IFR.
Like what? 5 minutes, 3 minutes later?
Yeah. So we made it through the
layer.
We legally flew through the layer of clouds to get to where we wanted to go. That's one of the benefits of getting your IFR license.
So you can fly VFR, and then if you want to send down through the clouds, or
Yeah. You know, rather than run out of gas. You know, so you don't have to, as you guys progress beyond getting your instrument, you turn the lights on. As you progress, when you get your instrument rating, you know, one of the things is you're not ready to go shoot approaches to 200 feet minimums. Dear God, that's a horrible, horrible idea, and you will die. All right? But you are very reasonably going to be ready at the end of your training here when you pass your check ride to shoot approaches with 1,000-foot ceilings, which is, you know, a VFR pilot can legally take off and fly practice with a 1,000-foot ceiling.
In class golf.
In class golf.
Here you'd have to be at 700 feet, just kind of.
Shoot you around underneath. You could go do, what, 1,500-foot ceiling? Is that what you would need? So 1,500-foot ceiling, right? Yeah. So I think you all could very, very reasonably come in here after having practiced this approach the umpteenth billion times we've done it and land with a 1,000-foot ceiling and, like, not even be stressful because you've flown in here blind a dozen times. So then over time, you just keep practicing, you keep flying in the sims, and then you start trimming it off. You go, okay, I'm good with 900-foot ceilings everywhere, and I'm good with 500-foot here. You know, places that I've practiced a lot. And you just keep working them down. My personal minimums right now, if I've never flown into the airport, is 800 foot. I won't try to shoot the approach if there's lower than an 800-foot ceiling. I would easily fly into here with a 400-foot ceiling because I've sat in the right side of the plane and had you guys do it 18 billion times. I have a pretty good idea of what the approach is.
probably fly it in your sleep.
Not quite, but and in the 340, I would struggle to hand fly it if it was like bumpy and crappy. Something to remember is that when you're coming in, when we're doing these in VFR days, it's usually pretty smooth. If you go do it on an IFR day, you are very likely getting tossed around. The weather's just crappy. So, all right.
So what if it's really bouncy and you like bust the minimum?
So on the check ride, the standard is plus 100, minus 100, except for your MDA and DA, which are
Plus 100 minus 0.
Plus 100 minus 0. Alright? In the real world, nobody's bitching at you until you get 200 feet off. Alright? So you clean yourself up. And actually, what will happen?
So, in the instance today where there's mountain wave, you can ask for block altitudes, and they'll give you a block altitude to have to deal with mountain wave.
Yeah.
So they'll say you are cleared for 9,000 feet to 11,000 feet, and you can
Bounce
haul
around.
over that entire thing.
If you're on an approach though, and if you get 100 feet low, what'll happen sometimes if they think if you're trending, so if you're not just low and then pop back up, but if you trend low and trend low, they will suddenly go altimeter setting. That is code for we are worried about the bottom of your altitude. Tighten your shit up before we give you a phone number to call.
Or we think you have the wrong altimeter setting.
They're giving you the chance.
They're
Pretend
giving
you had the wrong one.
Well, they're giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
They're giving you, hey, something's not right here. So if you look consistently low, but like if you're bouncing around, on my instrument check ride, it was a crappy day. It was not IFR, but it was rough. And I bounced in, and I definitely broke the plus 100, minus 100 on a specific approach, and I thought I had failed. And we kind of kept flying, and we get ready to head back, and then the DPE goes, "Hey, do you mind if I fly this for a little bit? Because I've never flown this kind of airplane." And I'm like, "No, okay." And we're kind of flying. I'm like, "Okay, so when am I going to have to come and retest?" He goes, "What are you talking about retest?" I'm like, "Man, I absolutely know I busted that." He goes, "I couldn't have kept it within plus or minus 100. We have leeway based on weather." And it's like, it's what's legal and safe. It's like the standard is the standard, but the standard accounts for weather. So, now don't count on that.
Don't play that.
Oh, and when I say it was bad, I mean it was absolutely brutal. And we missed just because he didn't want to land in the weather.
So, when we're doing our check rides, could we potentially be doing it in actual IFR?
No.
No.
The examiner will not do it.
So
It's-
legally
you have to
they
be-
can.
Our examiner will not.
Yeah, this one's it. Legally they can. No examiner will.
Gotcha. So, but because we aren't, technically we don't have our, we're not IFR rated.
And that's exactly why. Is because it would go on them if you busted something.
So when we go flying and I file, you guys have all noticed this. I'll let you get to like 90 feet off, and then I start bitching at you. If we're not filed,
I've never done it on an iPhone. I've done way worse on not on the iPhone.
so, but I won't, I'll let you, you have to learn. So you have to learn. But when we're on an IFR flight plan, I only have so much space I can work with. And I don't want to call. I don't want a number to call. Because you're flying on my ticket. But we are flying actual IFR rules. Happens to be I can see outside. You can't. Sometimes. But what you got? One of you guys got like an hour and a half the other day, didn't you?
That must have been the deal.
It was an hour, yeah.
About an hour.
1.1.
1.1? Of actual instrument. And that's because we're filed on my ticket. Which is horrible. I'm doing the thing I told you not to do. On my certificate. See,
Did you tell us not to do that? So.
I said don't use the word license. Well, also ticket is slang. But so we're flying on my pilot certificate and my rating. So if Dylan, when we were shooting the approach into Kalispell, if Dylan had an actual violation, it would be on me. When Andrew and I were not flying exactly what we were cleared to fly because I misunderstood what the controller said.
That's Andrew's fault.
No, in theory, if they were going to violate somebody, I would get violated. even though Andrew was flying the plane. Now, partly it's because I told Andrew to do what we did. My
Partly
responsibility.
because he's getting instruction.
Yeah, he's getting instruction. Now, those, I don't know what you guys are giving me about.
I'm not violating people's TSA's job.
That's painful laughing at.
What's that?
You said you'd get violated.
Oh.
It wasn't.
I mean, just look. Dylan looks hilarious. It was the weirdest part. They just both looked to see if they were gonna laugh. Then boom, it's gone.
Fair enough. And you know, it's worth it entirely just for that shade of red. Alright.
I thought you were supposed to be one of the best of us. Dylan.
You're supposed to be setting the example by actually setting the example. I'm good with that. That was a good catch.
Always know not to make eye contact with John.
I'm just sad you made the joke before me.
I had somewhere I was going with that.
Sorry.
You were saying something about because he was getting instruction.
Oh, so like you two guys that have done the Deer Park adventure, right? Were you guys perfect?
Yeah. Okay,
Well played. Bullshit. Well played.
I know that's not right.
Yeah, we're
It's like, you know.
I see now the fast answer.
See, they're pilots. We're trying to break, Bill.
So, but
Yeah.
So that was fast and incorrect.
I got half of it.
But it was fast.
But it was fast. So, you know, you both, you flew it well, and I mean, but were they perfect? No. You both had a 100-foot plus bust at some point. That's one of the things I remember. And then you had the plane took off when we were on autopilot because we hadn't activated the approach, and it started to go directly to Deer Park.
We had that happen too. Wait, the plane took off? Like, took off the runway?
No.
Okay,
It deviated from the route.
Okay.
So did anybody call me and scream at me? No. Why? Well, because when I filed the flight plan, what it says is multiple practice approaches, multiple practice RNAV 16 at Deer Park. And in fact, our controller today specifically said, do you still want to do multiple practice approaches? Do you still want multiple RNAV 16? Yes. Affirmative. And then he goes, okay. And then as we're flying, they work with you. They talk. They know it's practice. They do have, however, limits. If you bust by plus or minus 300 feet, I will get a phone number to call. If you, I don't remember what the heading, because it's not actually a heading, it's how far you get off the route.
Isn't it 2 dots or?
No, if you get a full-scale deflection, you are off. If you're on a check ride and you get more than 3/4 scale deflection, you're a fail. If you're on a check ride and you do more than plus or minus 100 feet, you're a fail. But out in the world, they'll give you up to 300 feet, plus or minus 300 feet, before you get a phone number. And but they're going to be talking to you before that. You're like, where are you going? I have actually heard a controller ask a pilot of an airline,
Oh no.
exactly where are you going?
Was it you?
This
I
is
never
not an
told
airline.
Was it you, Callie?
You love that
It was probably
line.
Callie.
It's always Cali.
Get ready.
So, but like the other day when I misunderstood what the guy said, he just came on and he goes, hey, are you going direct to KGPI? And I said, well, yes, that's what you told me. And he goes, I thought when I cleared you, you were going to go to GOBS. I'm like, and you know what? That's what I was supposed to do based off of how he cleared me. I was confused because the previous controller specifically told me to go Olaby direct.
So then they weren't talking to each other.
No, I just misunderstood the second instruction.
Gotcha.
I should have had it though. When they clear you from an initial approach fix, you are cleared to fly the approach. You don't have to go wait for vectors. So, but he didn't give me a phone number to call or anything. He just, because then I said, could you give us vectors? And he gave us vectors to get back on the approach. So they're not out there to bust you out. You just got to talk to them and communicate and be clear. Go from there.
This is just, don't they have to prove that you were, or do they have to prove that you were in violation?
So everything's recorded.
Yeah.
So they'll just play back the tapes.
Oh, okay.
Also, so I've never gotten a phone number. My understanding is most of the time when you get a phone number, you call. I know you've gotten one.
Silence.
So it's not as god awful as you think, unless you're being an egregious asshole.
Unless you're busting bro.
Callie must have had a bad time.
What's that?
Now, I would have loved to hear the replay of the tapes from your thing, because that guy was sounding really confusing.
We should go look it up.
I have a
They
question.
don't have it this long yet.
Is this something you don't want to delve into, or can I ask you questions?
Yeah, go for it.
We have like an interrogation.
You said just promise not to hold it against me later.
Not at all. I'll tell you what my worst fear is hearing those words. It's,
Get a phone number.
I got the phone number for you to call.
So it's actually getting a phone number is actually a mercy, because it stops them from having to go into all of the legal paperwork and all of the actions that might be taken against you as a pilot. So giving you the phone number is you get on the ground, you get to a safe spot, you end your flight, whatever, and then you call them and they go over what happened and why you were wrong, and then that's basically their end of he knows he's wrong. I told him he knows what he should have done, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Is be berated by a mean controller over the phone for half an hour. That's what happened to me. That was my personal experience.
So as you move up, I'd suggest you get AOPA's legal advice.
Mm-hmm.
The difference there is if you get a phone number, you call them first.
That's their PPS, protection services.
Yep. So it's not crazy expensive, especially if you fly a lot and you want to keep your ticket and you're planning on using it to make a living. And I just did it again. Keep your certificate. But you want to make that call because, like she said, it's them. They're trying to work it out. And unless you are just deliberately doing things, what they want to do is just make you safe and let you know what happened wrong. Yours was you took off without clearance?
No, I crossed a hold short line off of the runway approach area. So I wasn't actually crossing the runway, I was just crossing the approach threshold. And so there was a hold short line, but I had been cleared for that twice already to go just straight across on my initial taxi clearance. And then the third time I just did it and he had not told me to do that, even though I was the only one at the airport.
Where was it?
Phelps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the
Because he got after you for.
Yeah.
He's like, sir, we're a tower.
Exactly. Yeah, so like a 5-year-old.
They're awful, aren't they?
They're terrible. I'm like,
what happened?
Right?
I was like, what did I say? Turn it in. I was just saying.
Don't you need position reports?
Yeah.
So you said turning base, runway.
Yeah. Something like that.
Like 4.
Just so you
Phelps
know.
The guy's like, I'm a tower. I'm like, I know that. I'm like, chill.
Tell me something I don't know.
Okay.
Well, the guy just sounded really confused. He's like, oh, we're a tower?
We're a tower.
Like he was reminding himself, like
Yeah.
checking the watch. Like,
He's like, was it me?
Didn't he say it twice? He's like,
Am I working overtime now?
Alright.
But in short, Dylan, it was a learning experience for me because I was a student pilot on a solo. I did something wrong that was entirely on me. But for them to give me the phone number and explain what I did wrong, because all I did was question everything I was doing after that. So for them to do that and be like, hey, by the way, this is what happened. Now we're over it. That was it. Everyone makes fun of me for it, and I talk about it like it was a horrible experience. It was a little traumatizing as a 16-year-old, but for the most part, it was that one day and it was done. That was it. There really hasn't been anything other than the social repercussions of it.
So now, if you do something, and then in retrospect you're like, ooh, that was a bad idea, I may have violated a thing. Do you guys know what an ACERS report is?
NASA report.
Yeah, they're called ASRs.
Oh.
ASRs. But NASA, you go on NASA, and you go and you self-report the I did something stupid, and I've done 5 or 6 of them in my life for different things or just encounters. I had an encounter with a county sheriff's helicopter, Spokane County Sheriff's helicopter, literally directly over my house in the 340. I was entering the pattern at the neighborhood, and they were coming out of Newman Lake at low level, and we passed within 50 feet of each other. I can tell you the guy that was flying the helicopter was blonde, and he was wearing a helmet.
What?
So you see the lights of their eyes.
His hair was coming out the bottom of the helmet. That's how close we were together. And I was in the 340. So I was doing 100 plus miles an hour.
That was the thing you chose to look for when you were.
It just caught my eye. I'm like, holy crap, dude's got a helmet on, and I can tell you that he's blonde. I'm like,
So when you file one of these reports, do you? Is there no repercussions from that, or do they look at it?
so they look at it, and if the FAA comes to do enforcement action, like if you possibly violated a regulation and didn't realize it, it gives you limited immunity from that prosecution, from that enforcement action.
Because you
reported it, because they want people to report dangerous events. And I was like, so in that particular case, for example, I'm flying a 340 at extremely low altitude. So I was within 1,000 feet of houses, maneuvering to land, but it could have certainly been called into question why a 340 was where it was. The helicopter was also not on frequency, not talking. So my whole thing, that's just one example. But so you put these in the system, and then if they come back and somebody tries to do an enforcement action on you, you'd be like, hey, I did report that as a NASA report. They're all sort of anonymous, and they mail you a literal physical piece of paper with a special code that you can provide in the event that something happens, so that you can prove that you filed a ASERS report.
It goes a long way to say that I noticed this and I did paperwork months ago. So.
Yeah, well, it's just you're acknowledging that it was unsafe.
What happens if the FAA is much faster at their paperwork than it has ever been heard of in the federal government?
You have 10 days.
And you don't have that code.
You have 10 days to put in an ASERS report, no matter what.
So here's just a real world situation. I got a phone call. It's been 2 or 3 weeks now that I got that phone call, but the FAA was researching a possible pilot deviation, and the language that he used was very professional. It was very matter of fact, but it was very benefit of the doubt. There was nothing saying this was absolutely the pilot's fault. He was absolutely in the wrong. We're investigating a pilot deviation.
Is this on me?
No. This is on me. That one I'd rather not say. But the whole conversation that I had with this person, he didn't tell me any real details other than it was an altitude deviation. And this was something they had me go back because they were trying to track down who the pilot was, obviously, because it's a flight school airplane. And it was back in the beginning of October. So if that gives you...
It wasn't you guys, I do know this.
Yeah, if that gives you, like, a sort of idea of how long it took them to get around to that. And as I say, the guy was really cool about it. So... They don't want you.
The YouTube guy that literally jumped out of his own airplane. It took him over a year to prosecute.
Yeah,
and he got his license.
And they had that on video.
Now.
I heard he's going to prison now
for obstructing justice.
Yeah, removing
obstructing the process of justice.
Crashing an airplane.
So in other words, it would have been better off if he just done it.
It's obstructing a federal investigation.
Okay, so real quick, we were going to do 65 Sierra to Pasco to Tri-Cities. Do that as homework because there's a good chance that we'll just go fly to Pasco. And then I just choose your own adventure. Pick some place that you want to go, that you would like, you know,
Oh, there you go.
that you would like to take ones, that you would like to take 1 9 or 6 9 or 8. And plan it there and back, and be prepared to provide that to me, and we can go. Oh, I will.
How far out? Like, do we have to do it with only one fuel stop?
I'm going to.
No, but if I'm going with you, you have to pay me the whole time we're gone. So just keep that in mind.
How much do you charge?
$185.
What if we go somewhere tropical? Like say on the beach.
Let's say
What if you would buy you margaritas?
Ooh, that's gotta be enough.
They legally will not let you.
If we go to Mexico, or if we go to Mexico or Canada,
Or
they
Europe.
legally will let you.
Yeah.
There you go.
So-
America.
We're going somewhere tropical.
Again, I think we're getting sidetracked.
America's
This is recorded live.
I'm not legally getting into Canada to do that though.
All right. So
Canada.
Yeah, I'd red flag all of you.
Thank you.
Not an excuse to not go.
do you see these rings that I have on my map?
Yes.
Whoa, how did
Those
you
are
get those?
So you can put them.
Is that
Go
like
to
a
your little.
No, it's how big
No.
is the crater
Settings.
makes this point though.
That's
So
what I was
these are
thinking.
different. So you're talking about the own ship range rings. These rings are specifically 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles from 6.5 Sierra. So you can use Google Earth to make what are called KLM files, and then you can import them as user range rings. So this is for 1 9 or 7 9 or 8. I did, and I just used 100.
1 9 or 6 9 or 8?
Yeah, whatever.
Just change it to
Semantics.
So, but for
Lucas.
But for looking for places to go fly, so that red ring is the maximum range that 1 9 or 6 9 or 8 can fly.
Oh, we can make it almost to Alaska.
I know. I'm saying.
Let's go.
So,
Starting, you know.
Almost.
yeah.
Washington.
but so 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours.
Very typical.
So that's 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours.
I don't know what
Supposed
you
to-
said.
I used 100 miles because the plane is about 100 miles an hour. It's just a rough estimate for doing planning. If you're like, you know,
That's actually
because
really cool.
it lets me figure out things like, to get down to Lewiston takes over an hour, a little less than 2 hours with no wind.
None of us want to fly into Lewiston.
Why not?
It was actually really nice. I had a great time.
Is there a
I did one taxi at all.
Okay.
Taxi.
So
Flying.
at some point in the future, if you guys want, I will teach you how to make like custom range rings and things like that. So like I have for November 505. Oh no! So this was. I don't know if you can see that where it says the bowl. See if I can- See those? This is when I flew the sheep. I was looking for sheep. I had the Department of Fish and Wildlife send me a KLM file of where we were flying, and I turned it into an overlay on my iPad, which was shockingly useful given the way they were planning on keeping me where I needed to be. And
I
then
think that's a class we should. Well,
these rings, those are range rings for 505 Sierra Foxtrot for my plane.
what are you flying out by Russia?
That's,
Looks a lot like the Chinese
White.
I don't know why that one,
That makes it last.
that's Alaska up there.
You make it. You can make
Pretty sure it's Anchorage. No, too far.
That's Fort Yukon, Alaska. I have family that lives up there.
Gotcha.
And
I
so,
thought that was all Russia.
but like this is a way that I could plan for going up to Fort Yukon and figuring out where I can do a fuel stop if I want to do one run, one fuel stop.
It was genius.
So, and then these other places are places we commonly go. Las Vegas,
Disney World.
Disney World. That's Kissimmee. PCW is up by Toledo, Ohio.
Right, so you can get like pretty much from Florida all the way. You can get here and looks like one fuel stop.
Here to Florida, it takes me 2. Okay, but so this is back to planning. It's nice to be able to throw on like this is what my maximum range rings are. This is how far I can really get, and just understanding whether you want to make those range rings conservative and leave the hour of gas that you need in the tank, or I call them zero wind range rings because they are zero wind. If you've got a headwind, it's not going to work for you, and if you got a tailwind, you can get a little further. So choose your own adventure. Just places you want to fly. If it's something you actually want to do, I can do an all-day trip. I'm just telling you that my rule is if you haul me somewhere, I'm getting paid unless I agree to it in advance. If we go someplace like I do a flight, I've done a flight down to McCall, and then we wait for it to get dark. Well, if I tell you we're going to do that and we're going to go eat, I will stop charging you when we leave the runway, leave the airport, and when we come back, we'll start charging you again. So I'll do trips like that, work with you. Because if you're going to learn to fly, you might as well learn to fly someplace fun. That kind of thing.
What if we take you to Vegas?
Then you won't ever find him again.
If you take me to Vegas, you better be prepared because I'm going to go play poker. And that takes like 9-10 hours. And I'm not paying you. So, all right. And then last, I got just a weird note here I want to make sure we cover before I kick you out. This is actually the last slide. So, composite flight plans. You can file a flight plan that is VFR and IFR. Like the first dash VFR, and then at some point it changes to IFR. What actually happens in the system, though, is they file 2 separate flight plans, and you have to close the VFR flight plan separately. And you're supposed to do it in the air with FSS. I have. Was that?
We had one question on
Prepware? Yeah.
About when to close your VFR flight plan before or after opening your IFR.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I have never ever bothered to do that, so I don't know. I think I've only ever in my life filed one VFR flight plan and opened it.
Seriously?
Yeah, because.
I would guess you would close your VFR before.
You're supposed to. That was the.
Close your VFR flight plan in flight before you open your IFR flight plan. Then you immediately open your IFR flight plan. Typically, it's with FSS.
Yeah. Which is what we got wrong, right?
I got it. Right. Well, we got the wrong person.
We thought we were going to contact a different.
Yeah.
Okay. Round robin flight plan is an IFR flight plan that starts at an airport and ends at the same airport. That's what we've been flying over at Deer Park, so you've all seen this. You should be able to kind of conceptualize. I filed from here, partway out on the departure, and then I kicked over to Diane, and in the remarks section of the flight plan, so the departure and the arrival location were the same. And in the remarks section, I said I wanted to do multiple approaches at Deer Park, and then we just work with it. And then VFR on top is not VFR over the top. VFR over the top is when you are VFR and you fly and you get on top of the clouds. That's what we were doing. We flew up, got on top of the clouds, went over.
I think you know what VFR on top is.
What is it?
VFR on top is when you're on an IFR flight plan but flying in VFR conditions above the clouds.
And specifically, you've been cleared to fly VFR on top.
Okay.
And so then you can fly at any VFR altitude that's legal. So you can change altitudes to find better wind, better weather, whatever. But you also have to stay in VFR conditions. And you have to follow all the IFR rules at the same time.
Do you have to ask for that?
Yes, you have to request VFR on top. VFR over the top, you can just do. Gotcha. Do you know if in Canada, I think in Canada, you're not allowed to do VFR over the top.
I don't think you're allowed to now.
Average
Canada has a lot of weird rules. Like you can't fly at night and look at a specific license
Yeah.
and stuff.
Hey, what is all the jabs at Nicole in Canada? I have a question.
She's from Canada.
She's
Okay.
born in Canada.
Josh is.
I am 1 minute late, so do you have any other questions?
No.
It's because Canada's full of French people. We don't like French people.
Canada's full of Canadians.
Basically the same thing.